go live in a sec. So remember your microphone's on. Okay.
And she looks like she's a mother too.
A very warm welcome to the World Individual Time Trial Championships for women here in Florence. Yet again, another beautiful day as we get ready for what is going to be a real showdown between these elite women riders. There's going to be 48 women take to the start line. Again, the beautiful surroundings of the Duomo in the centre of Firenze, where the riders in the time trials have been racing past over the last few days. And again, a great crowd who are enjoying these World Championships already. And as we build up to the weekend, I think we're going to see even bigger crowds as we get towards the elite women's road race and the elite men's road race, which come at the weekend. So today, yet again, another rainbow jersey will be presented. And many different nations represented in today's field. And we'll introduce every one of the riders to you. Quite a short time trial today, 22.06 kilometers. It is one of the shortest individual time trials we've ever seen in the women's elite time trial. The shortest was in 2003 in Canada, but before that we've had some pretty long time trials. We've had time trials up to 30 kilometers, which was the first ever individual time trial back in Italy in 1994 that the women took part in. So today's event, 22 kilometers, pretty short, so we should see some pretty rapid times out on the roads. And like yesterday when we had the under-23 men's time trial, this course is very fast, but the women's route today is based more in the city than it is anywhere else. It doesn't go on the same route from Pistoia that we've seen in the last few days. Well, sitting alongside me today for today's time trial is a woman who knows all about elite racing and who has been guiding actually some of the athletes who are taking part today in this elite time trial. Rochelle Gilmore, a very warm welcome. Looking forward to today.
Absolutely, it's going to be a very exciting World Championship today, and I'm just sitting on the edge of my seat waiting to see who's going to win that World Championship jersey. Obviously, Ellen van Dijk from Specialized Lululemon, she already won a World Championship a couple of days ago in the team time trial, and she has some really strong teammates, so it's going to be a very interesting individual time trial today.
Now the weather conditions, and we're going to talk through those in a moment, see exactly what they're like, but it's really, really warm in Florence, isn't it? It's been terribly warm over the last few days. Does that have a real bearing on how these riders will do?
I think it does. The heat is quite extreme out there, and in the warm-ups they're warming up there in a very large car park. Some teams will have tents for shade, but I think that will play on the minds of some riders that either like the heat or they don't like the heat. I had a comment from Giorgia Bronzini the other day saying, I really hope it's hot this year for the World Championship because I like the hot conditions, but there will be some riders who do like the hot conditions and some that don't.
So you've really got to, even on 22 kilometers though, hydration is obviously still quite important, I guess, for these riders. As we can see, the weather conditions today, 26 degrees centigrade. The wind is only 0.7 meters per second. Over the last few days, we've seen it up in a team time trial to sort of 2.5 meters per second. So it is absolutely still pretty much. I
think that's why it's feeling really hot out there. It's feeling a lot hotter than 26 degrees. So yeah, the hydration's really important in the lead up to the individual time trial. Being a short event, it's all about how much the athletes have been drinking and hydrating since the moment they woke up this morning. And obviously there's a little bit of a difficult balance there because you also don't want to get on the start line feeling like you need to go to the loo. So it's a bit of a tricky balance for an athlete in hot conditions, but they definitely want to have been hydrated since the moment they woke up this morning.
Now, some of the women that we're seeing today took part in the team time trial at the weekend. So for some riders, it's all been about recovery over the last few days, hasn't it? Let's take a look at the route first before we talk a little bit more about that. So today's route is very different to what we've seen so far. It's based in the city, and they go on totally flat roads, a little bit of a loop back and forward before you race in towards the finish. Right along the banks of the Arno River, little technical section before the finish, a couple of intermediate time splits again, one at 12.5 kilometres, one at 16.4, and that'll give us a good indication of how the riders are going, see whether anyone started too fast or anyone is starting to accelerate as this time trial continues. So they're pretty close together, those intermediate time splits. It won't give us a massive difference, but it will give us a good taste, won't it, of how these riders are going.
Well, it's very important to be able to control yourself in an individual time trial. We saw in the team time trial that some teams went out extremely fast, and other than Specialized Lululemon, who could hold the pace, was interesting to see how fast, with all the nerves and everything, that the teams went out, and how much the pace has changed between the first and second time check.
So today the first rider who will be starting is going to be the rider from Lithuania. That's Katarzyna Sosna, but as usual this is seeded, so the faster riders go at the end of the 48 riders who take to the start, and there is no doubt we really do have a pretty star-studded field when we get to the last 10, maybe 15 riders that we're going to see. It's always interesting to try and speculate a little bit about who might be a possible winner today. Of course, we don't have Judith Arndt. She has won the last 2 years but is now retired. So we're going to see a new world champion by the looks of things.
Yeah, I think that's interesting this year that Judith Arndt's not there. She's always one that we would predict to be on the podium. So obviously she's not here this year, and it opens up a little bit more. Amber Neben was always a favourite for the podium, and she's not present this year. She's also retired. So I think Ellen van Dijk is really the clear favourite here, but then we have Linda Willemsen, who's always on the podium, so can never count her out. And then the rest of the Specialized Lululemon team, there's a few riders: Evelyn Stevens, Carmen Small, Lisa Brennauer, Trixie Warwick. They're all big names. So it will definitely be an open world championship.
So we look at, as we look through the field who are going to be taken to the start, you get the rundown of all the nationalities, all the names. As you can see, the riders going at 2-minute intervals today, which is again different to what we've seen in the under-23s and the other competitions we've seen so far. But the other day we saw Specialized Lululemon, who have not been beaten in a team time trial, I think I'm right in saying, for 3 years. Why are they so good at time trials?
I think they have an extremely strong team of talent in time trialing. They're time trial specialists, and they train a lot together. And because they've kept the majority of the riders together for the last few years, that they know each other very well. And I think that's very important in a team time trial. But we might see 5 riders from Specialized Lululemon placed in the top 10 today. So they've definitely put their professional women's cycling team together, targeting the team time trial, with a lot of time trial specialists in that team. So it will be interesting to see, out of those riders, which one comes out on top today.
Well, they really have got some strength in depth. This is the first rider who's going to start, Katarzyna Sosna from Lithuania. Be the first rider up onto the start ramp. And we'll have the bike checked, of course. You've got to conform to all the different rules and regulations. And Rochelle, you know, as a team manager, it's always really difficult, isn't it?
Oh, it is extremely difficult to know whether the bike is going to comply on the day with that commissaire, because every day it's a different understanding of, or interpretation of the rules. It's a very huge document that you have to conform to. When you take that bike to the start line for the check, anything could happen, and you need to have a mechanic there prepared with his tools, ready to make a change. But with riders like this, they may be a little bit less experienced on the rules, so I think that can play a lot in the rider's mind. If the bike has to be changed at the last moment, that's a huge disadvantage to a rider. Being in tune with your bike is really important, and if something needs to be changed right on the line, that can change everything in your mind.
Yeah, because you've got to be totally focused, you've got to be right on your game, and all those little tweaks that happen just can throw you off, can't they? A rider just wants to be in the zone ready for today's race. Right, the first rider's underway in a second. This is Katarzyna Sosna from Lithuania, who's up there on the start ramp to get started. 22 years of age in the yellow and red of Lithuania. We've known this kit for a long, long time. They never really change it, which is always good for commentary because you can pick it out nicely. The start ramp today for the individual time trial, nice and long, so there's not too much of a bump down. The team time trial to me looked pretty steep, so this one shouldn't present too many problems, as the first rider in this World Time Trial Championship is now underway. A very quick right-hand bend into the first straight. So they'll get into their rhythm, a little bit of acceleration. The second rider is already up there and getting themselves ready for their race. That's Ana Sanchez of Spain, who'll be taken to the start again, just getting a last little bit of drink. And we're out on the route now with Katarzyna Sosna, who's already on those aero skis, just settling in. And as you can see, they'll go up this right-hand side. There'll be a loop round the top, then they'll come back the other direction, so they'll be able to see the rider on the other side as they make their way back down the route, which is unusual. We haven't seen that so far in these time trials. And then they'll start to go inside the city, through the more technical section, into the finish. A rider's body, when they first go off the start ramp, that old adrenaline is pumping, isn't it? You can sometimes go off a little bit too quickly because you're so motivated.
I think that's a common thing with the less experienced riders that we're going to see go off the ramp early, that they might post really fast times at the first time check, because it's a world championship and a lot of these riders may not have competed at this level, and the atmosphere is just unbelievable, and the attention from the fans. You can see there's so many people here today, so it's very, very difficult to control yourself off the line if you're not an experienced time trial rider at elite level at the World Championships.
And is there techniques that riders use to calm themselves down a little bit and just ride a little bit more steady into their performance, or not?
I think absolutely there's got to be these key words that they can say in their mind, or things that they can do to block out the atmosphere around them and just stay really focused on the task at hand. And a lot of people use music for that, so the type of music they can listen to keep them calm.
This is the next rider then. This is Ana Sanchez of Spain, in the red, black and yellow colours, the Spanish kit that they've kept the same for the last couple of years. They tend to add a little change now and then, but Ana Sanchez is now underway, 25 years of age, birthday coming up in October, and is now onto those aero skis. Interestingly, the Spanish riders, in contrast to the other nations, tend to keep their hands quite wide apart on their aero skis. Most other nations have realised that in the wind tunnel tests that they do, keep the hands close together, keep them turned over, you cut through the air in a different way, but they're very much the style going throwback to Miguel Indurain.
Yeah, I've heard a lot of debate about this topic, having the hands together at the front there or having them apart, and I think one of the theories behind this position, having the arms apart, is to keep the lungs open, not to have them squashed, to get some more air in. So that's one thing that I've heard about that. But as we see with this position, the hands are together, and that looks a little bit more aerodynamic.
Yeah, no, you must know, because you've got 3 of the British Olympic gold medalists who ride the team pursuit on the track. I bet they talk about stuff like this all the time.
Absolutely. The British are known for their scientific approach, and it's amazing the lengths that they go to make sure every single little thing is thought about, and paid some really close attention to the aerodynamics and the materials and the position and the comfort to maximise that power output. So I hear these discussions all the time.
Well, we'll keep talking about that as this race continues. The next rider is on the start ramp then. This is Denise Ramsden, who is a former under-23 national time trial champion and national road race champion of Canada. Canada have got a good track history really in producing good time trialists. We think previously of riders who've taken part in World Championship time trials for Canada. So Denise Ramsden going off very early, maybe not expected to be one of the top 10 riders, but you just never know. She's a talented young rider.
The Canadians often do really strong time trials, and they're known for that in women's cycling, that they have some specific time trial riders. And this is not a name, Ramsden, that we've seen often this year, but you can never count out the Canadians, because they're certainly really strong bike riders, and they tend to come to the World Championships a little bit unknown. we can often see that they end up in the top 10.
Absolutely, they've got some very good bike riders in all levels. They've got a good racing program, and you think of riders now like Svein Tuft and Ryder Hazedal and riders like that, who these sort of riders can be motivated by and can try and emulate. Out on the course then with the first rider, their first time split will be at 12.5 kilometres. Katarzyna Sosna, who is now very much into the rhythm. I've noticed over the last few days, Rochelle, that there's been this rule about these aero overshoes, that you're not allowed to ride and wear them anymore unless it's pouring with rain. But that rule seems to have been relaxed in the last few days because every single rider's been wearing them.
Yeah, it's another interesting topic when it comes to the UCI regulations. It does state that the shoe covers can only be worn when the weather looks like it's going to rain or is raining. Certainly there's no rain around today, so all the riders are wearing the covers, so nobody is disadvantaged. It's either one way or the other. And I think that the athletes themselves really like to be able to wear the aero booty covers.
Yeah, I mean, they know that they are definitely more slipstreamed, and that they're used to wearing them. They give them a little bit of extra morale, don't they? So it's amazing that you come to a World Championship all year, everyone's been told to take them off, and then this time everyone is okay to wear them. This is the next rider then. This is Supaksom Nuntana from Thailand, as we again see the globalization of cycling and more riders from different nations getting the opportunity to ride the world titles. I think we'll see here that our caption is slightly wrong, because that's the next rider to go, Alenka Novak. So this is Nuntana from Thailand, and may find that the speed of this World Championship is a big experience for her.
You can see she's just trying to get comfortable there on the bike, and she's been moving her helmet up and down a little bit, so it's possible that there we see it again, that she's maybe not been riding this bike in the past, or this helmet, so she looks a little bit uncomfortable, but this is a new experience for her, and I think that she would just be thriving on the opportunity to be out there on these super fast closed roads with great crowds and being motivated along.
So she's now got herself settled into a rhythm. Always important aerodynamically that the teardrop on the helmet you keep touching the spine. There's the cockpit of the next rider who's going to start, and this is the rider from Slovenia. This is Alenka Novak, who's going to get started. The cockpit with the computer on there to keep the rider in knowledge about how they're doing, speed and all that sort of thing. Some riders have got their power output on there as well if they like to ride with a power meter. And the aero helmet, maybe the long hair might not be too aerodynamic, but it doesn't really matter sometimes. So the fans are out enjoying the atmosphere of the World Championship. This morning we had the men's junior time trial. Yesterday we had the women's junior time trial as well. So each morning we've got some great racing going on, and the atmosphere builds throughout the day. Alenka Novak then underway for Slovenia, and the next few riders to go. I think really the rider that we're looking at, who may be someone who'll set a standard for everyone to beat for later on, will be Mija Radotic of Croatia, who will be going off wearing number 36. I think before that we'll probably see times quite different between these riders, but Radotic is a Croatian time trial champion and should go quite quick. Now I'm thinking about later on, about riders that we might see produce some performances while we watch these riders out on the course. We've talked about Ellen van Dijk, who everyone is saying is a race favourite. She's been really on fire this year in time trials. She has already won the Chrono Champenois, which for women riders and for the under-23s is seen as a time trial that can give you a good indication of who might win the World Championships, and she won that. She's been 5th in the World Championship, 6th in the World Championship, 8th in London 2012, but she has been beaten this year in a time trial earlier on in the season, but she really is on form now. Emma Johansson beat her in the race of Immaculate Bira, didn't she, earlier on in the season? So if she's the out-and-out favourite, there's no doubt about that, but will the pressure get to her is the question.
That's the thing with World Championships. It's a different race altogether. I try to say to the athletes who I'm looking after that it's just another race, but we all know that it's not. It's the World Championship. They need to go through their general routine that they've been doing all year, and they've raced so many times, but just that tag of being the World Championship and knowing that there's so many support staff around looking after these athletes at this particular event to make sure everything goes right. It is possible that the pressure can get to the athletes. Ellen van Dijk has been tagged as a clear favourite for this World Championship. But other riders like Shara Gillow, she has actually beaten Ellen van Dijk this year, so she'll be, I think, quietly confident that she could make the podium. She's the Australian rider. Fortunately, she came down in a training accident just the day before the team time trial, so that was only a few days ago. And we're not sure how much that's affected her in the technical aspects of this race. It might come into her mind that she has touched down on a roundabout only just a few days ago. We've heard that she's not badly injured, but Shara Gillow is definitely one to watch.
Okay, so that's interesting. Bit of background information about the Australian rider. She actually will wear number 4 in this time trial. Just after her will go Evie Stevens, the American rider, silver medalist in 2012. She was 6th in 2010. She's got that amazing story of having worked in New York in an investment bank, and now turned her attention to being a full-time athlete. Let's just introduce this rider to you. This is the French rider, who's the next rider to start. This is Melody Lesueur, who is up there on the start ramp. We haven't seen the Ugandan rider start, who was the next rider to take to the ramp after Alenka Novak. The French so far have had a good World Championship. Yesterday we saw Johan Payot of France, the under-23 rider, take a medal. So French cycling right now is starting to get some depth back. They've got some good women riders, some good male riders, and we'll see how Melody Lesueur actually does. She's on that always on look bikes. They never change them. They've always got the look time trial bikes, have done for years and years and years, and is now counting down and underway down that start ramp through that little right hander right at the beginning of this time trial, and then onto the aero skis up to top speed, get aerodynamic, and then concentrate on putting the power on and putting a good time in. No riders reached a 12.5 kilometre point yet. We're just waiting to see the first rider reach there shortly. We've mentioned Mia Radotic, who will go off number 36. This is number 42. Other riders then that we should just talk about. Someone this morning was mentioning on Twitter to me that they thought Olga Zamolinskaya was a possible winner.
She definitely is. She had a fantastic ride at the London Olympics, finishing there on the podium. She's actually a mother, so she is one of 2 riders in this race that are combining motherhood with their training and preparation. So there is a theory that after you have a baby, you're much stronger as a woman. So we see a lot of athletes go away and have a child and then come back. I think that would be a really tricky task to be a mother and to prepare for a World Championship. But it's incredible, and she is definitely one of the podium favourites for today.
It's interesting that you talk about that, you know, there's this theory about women going away, having a baby, coming back, and I was talking to Sarah Story, who of course is a multi-winner of Paralympian titles, and she's just had a baby, and she trained up to 3 days before she had her recent baby, and she's already, she had an emergency cesarean, but and she's had that period of time off, and she's already back.
That's just really amazing. I mean, the stories are amazing, but you do see athletes that they reach a new level after they come back from giving birth, and it's amazing. But that's the theory behind it and the science, and we've seen it happen so many times that a rider comes back and reaches a new level.
Well, let's see if Zabelinskaya can take the gold medal today. This is the Japanese rider, Iriya Namini, who has just started. Good to see Japan represented in this World Championship individual time trial. Again, Japan starting to produce some good riders as well, with more races over in China, over in Japan. I think your team rode in China earlier on in the year, from what I remember.
Yeah, we had some great success there with Giorgia Bronzini. It's, the race in China is very flat, so it's a little bit different to the racing in Europe. But the Japanese actually had a very, very hilly national championship this year. So they had their national championships also in June, and it was a very tough race. So, I mean, traditionally the Japanese are really good climbers, so I'm not sure that we'll see them do so well in the time trial on such a flat circuit here.
But we'll see what happens as we see Lessure, who is firmly into this time trial now, keeping a really nice high cadence. I've been standing at the end of the finishing straight today and seen some junior riders who have given absolutely everything to try and win a world title. It is the pinnacle of sport, with maybe the exception of the Olympic Games, but these riders will bury themselves to try and win a world title and produce the very, very best performance they can. It's interesting, the women's time trial today, though, is much, much more technical than any of the other events that we're going to see. The men's time trial is just pure speed. There's one hill, and apart from that, you put it in a 58-tooth chainring and you just give it full gas all the way. The women have got to go through the corners and go with the twists and turns, so it could be a different style of rider who wins.
Yeah, I think it's a really great circuit in that it gives that technical aspect, and it's got it's a very fast surface. The athletes are talking about how fast it is out there because all the roads have been resurfaced, and it's a really solid hot mix, and they're really enjoying that feeling of pure speed. And in the women's team time trial, they're able to hold speeds over 50 kilometers per hour. So we might see this a little bit less, especially with the technical aspect, but it definitely gives every rider an opportunity because there's two different types of aspects to this course, the technical side and also the pure power and grunt side of it.
And there's nothing better, is there, than on a bike when the bike is in full flow and you're flat out and you're feeling good.
I think that's the thing about the World Championships. Everybody leaves that little bit extra to go to with the materials, and riding the best disc wheels with the new tyres and the new bottom brackets, and everything's been, you know, freshly greased and oiled, and the bike just feels fantastic. And then to add to that, at this World Championships, they've gone and resurfaced all the roads with the hot mix, so it's definitely a really fast feeling. And I think the heat also gives you a faster feeling as well.
Yeah, well, you can't discount the heat. It's absolutely roasting, and has been for the entire World Championship so far. We are told that it's going to continue like this, and maybe it might rain for the men's road race. Aside from that, everything else is going to be okay. Right, this is our indication then of the sort of speed that you'll be doing out on the course. The first rider has reached the 12.5 kilometre point, Katarzyna Sosna, in a time of 17 minutes 17.87 with an average speed of 43.358 kilometres an hour. That's the benchmark. That's what we are looking at now for the rest of these riders to beat. This is the next rider to go, the Swiss rider. This is Jutta Steenen, who is up there on the start ramp and about to get underway. We've missed a Colombian rider starting. So this is the next rider who will be underway in just a moment, just being held by the commissaires and then counted down to the start. The Swiss rider, Jutta Steenen, underway now. And again, just getting through that first right-hander. I always wonder why they put a corner right at the start after you've come down a start ramp. Maybe there's a reason, I don't know. The second rider will be reaching the intermediate checkpoints shortly. That will be the Spanish rider, Ana Sanchez. So we've talked a little bit about Zabelinskaya. We've talked about Ellen van Dijk. Evie Stevens we've mentioned briefly, who was silver medalist last year. Sharagillo holds the hopes of Australia. We've only got her representing the Australian squad today. National time trial champion, 8th in 2010, 10th in 2012, and as long as hasn't had too much of a problem after that crash before the team time trial, maybe she can get herself on the podium. It'd be great to see another Aussie up there on the podium today, because so far Australia's doing okay.
Yeah, I mean, Shara Gillow definitely holds really high hopes for the Australians. I know they've invested in her in the last few years, and she's been increasing and developing and becoming stronger and stronger. So I think that they would definitely see her as a medal chance today, and putting a lot of faith behind her to bring home another medal for Australia. But the interesting rider missing from the start list today is Marianne Vos. Obviously, she's made a conscious decision to not ride today. And I think that would be a little bit of a relief for some riders. That's one less to worry about. She's a strong time trial rider, but obviously putting all of her eggs into the road race.
Next rider is up there on the start ramp, and this is the next rider to go, the Belarusian. This is Elena Sitsko. In the green, white and red colours of Belarus. We had the World Track Championship Championships in Belarus earlier on in the season. It was a great championship, very cold over there, complete contrast to how it is today. We were in Minsk for those at the beginning of the season, so Sitsko in a smaller gear, getting the cadence nice and high. You mentioned Marianne Vos. When we look at the previous few years of this World Time Trial Championship, Vos was 10th in 2011, but she doesn't really ride the individual time trial often, does she? No,
she tends to pull off a really good time trial in a tour, so at races like the Giro d'Italia or Turingen or stronger races, stage races, she always pulls out a really good time trial. But when it comes to a one-day race, individual time trial, she often decides not to ride it and to focus on the road races. But she's definitely a really strong time trial rider in the tours.
Let's just cast our attention here to Denise Ramsden. The time to beat so far at the first split is 17:17.87, and Ramsden goes through there with a good time of 17 minutes 00.27. The average speed notches up a little bit, 44.105 kilometers an hour for Denise Ramsden. So she set the standard for all these other riders to beat. As the Finnish rider, Sari Saralainen, takes to the start ramp now. Again, no other representatives from Finland taking part in this individual time trial, but Sari Saralainen up there on the start ramp. We normally see Pia Sundstedt ride individual time trials for Finland. So as you can see, there's the clock down there on the right-hand side, ticking down with the riders, 9, and they keep an eye on that. Then the Commissar counts down, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, and then they are underway. The next rider to start after Sari Saralainen of Finland will be Mia Radetic, who will go in 2 minutes, the Croatian time trial champion. So we've mentioned Zabelinskaya, we've mentioned Van Dijk and Evelyn Stevens, Shara Gillow. Two other riders I think we should just talk about a little bit while we get into this time trial. There's Denise Ramsden, who is the leader on this course at the moment. We should talk about Emma Johansson. Never in the top 10, interestingly, in a World Championship time trial, which I'm quite surprised about, because if you look at her in a prologue time trial, she wins things like the prologue of the Route to France and other races like that. She's really, really talented as a bike rider, can ride a time trial, but doesn't produce a time trial in the World Championships.
Yeah, that is very interesting. She definitely has produced a lot of great results during tours as well in the individual time trials and prologues. She's got a little bit of a sprinted, kind of like she's a fast rider, so I think that's why she can pull off a really good sprint at the end of races. So I think that's why she does well in the prologues. But definitely one of the names that you would put up there and consider today as maybe not a favourite, but she could pull out a great ride.
Well, let's see what happens with Emma Johansson, and then the other rider, which we'll just mention because you know her very, very well indeed. And I know when we get to the second to last rider going off, the penultimate rider, you're going to get a bit excited, I think. The New Zealander, Linda Willemsen, who's had 3 bronze medals, 1 silver medal. There is no doubt that she is the most consistent bike rider in individual time trials at world level in the last few years, and she desperately wants a gold.
Yeah, absolutely. And I mean, this could be the year for her. We've mentioned Ellen van Dijk, that she's the clear favourite, but Linda's definitely somebody who focuses on the individual time trial, and she's a huge talent in that event. This year's a little bit different to the other years because she did retire after the London Olympics last year and stepped away from the sport over the winter. She only decided in February that she would come back and make a comeback this year. She came over to Europe only in July to start racing again. So she has had a bit of a break, and that can be a positive for some athletes, or it could be a negative that she doesn't have that base form behind her. But since she's been in Europe since July, she's had some fantastic results. Winning the last stage of the Route de France by 4 or 5 minutes was pretty incredible. So that proves that she's definitely got the talent to get out there on her own and push the wind and produce some really high powers. And she's put everything into this since July, into this World Championship. So be interesting to see how she goes today.
Well, let's see how Linda Willemsen does do. She's up against Ellen van Dijk, who is the race favourite, as Nintana of Thailand reaches the intermediate checkpoint with an average speed of 40 kilometres an hour, 39.773, fourth fastest, but it's all about experience for the rider from Thailand. And good to see a representative of another country taking part. We've seen Mia Radetic start for Croatia. The next rider to take to the start ramp will be Leary Olavarria of Spain. And no rider has beaten Denise Ramsden's time so far, 17 minutes 00.27 at the 12.5 kilometre point. 4 riders have reached that. We've now seen the first riders reach the 16.4 kilometre point, as we notice now Olavarria on the start ramp, just getting the countdown to her start. At 16.4 kilometres, 2 riders reaching there. Sosna is fastest in 23 minutes 2.63. Anna Sanchez is second, 23:21.29, 18 seconds down. The average speed is 42 kilometres an hour to that point for Katarzyna Sosna. So slowing down a little bit over the second sector of this individual time trial, as Leary Olavarria of Spain now gets underway and goes through that first right-hand corner onto the skis. Her position is very different to the other Spaniard, who's got the hands right tight together. And this is Denise Ramsden now, approaching 16.4 kilometres. The time to beat, 23 minutes 2.63. Ramsden actually has beaten that now, 22 minutes 32.26. Average speed of 43.660, which compared to her opening average speed in the first sector is a little bit slower, 44.105 kilometres an hour as opposed to 43.660. So that second sector then, Rochelle, of about 4 kilometres is slowing the riders down. It's a little bit more technical for them to have to manoeuvre.
Well, like we said, it may be with these less experienced riders that are going off early in the race that they may be going out a little bit too fast due to the nerves and the adrenaline rush and everything at the start. And be interesting to see if the riders who are more experienced have even splits or higher average speeds when they get to the second part.
Yeah, I mean, we looked yesterday at some of the riders who were in the under-23 time trial, and it's very noticeable that as we see this rider taking to the start, the Danish rider, Annika Langvad, onto the start. And we talk about Danish riders. Yesterday we saw Lasse Hansen, who's the Olympic Omnium champion. He went off the start as though it was a 4-kilometre pursuit, and he still held on to get a medal, but he went through so much pain by the end of it. He was still recovering in the press conference.
It's really amazing how deep the riders can go in events like this. Yeah. They have their coach behind them with radios to motivate them and to just give them that little bit extra motivation towards the end to dig deeper. And it's just incredible to see how much they can hurt themselves. And it's nearly like they don't feel the pain until after they cross the line, and then it's just an awful feeling, I guess, with that lactic acid and the pain. But it is really incredible how deep they can actually go.
It's pretty impressive to see. And we know you as an athlete, you must get to that point sometimes where, is it purely about the fact that you just don't want to lose, you're that competitive, or do you get used to that sort of level of pain?
I think it's a little bit of both, but it's more like when you're out there, you don't really know why you're doing or anything that's going on the in the outside world. It's just about go harder and harder, and you don't realize how much it's actually hurting until you cross the line and you take the pressure off the pedals. And it's an amazing feeling because you can just run on adrenaline during the race, and then afterwards you completely collapse and you start to feel the pain.
Lesure has just reached the first time split, so this French rider, Mélodie Lesure, is the first rider under 17 minutes, 16:58.76 for the French rider, just 1.51 seconds ahead of Denise Ramsden. So the fastest rider on the course now is Mélodie Lesure of France, riding well, an average speed of 44.171 kilometers an hour as Langvad gets into this time trial. Rocking and rolling a little bit, not too steady on that bike.
That's interesting. Her position does look quite good, but you wonder if the seat might be a little bit high because she is rocking in the hips there. But this is a rider we've not heard much about, but she certainly looks like she's getting stuck into that.
She certainly does, as we turn our attention back to the Ukrainian rider, Valeria Kononenko, who wears number 33. Kononenko rocks down the start ramp, gets through that first corner, and then will accelerate hard up to top speed as the Lithuanian rider now is getting to the finish. This will be the standard for everyone to beat. Katarzyna Sosna is going to be the first rider to finish. She hasn't been caught by anyone out on the course. It would be unlikely to because of the short distance of this individual time trial. But Sosna heading up towards the finish line, so this will give us the time that everyone else will be aiming at. Inside the last few meters and hits the line now. The time is 30 minutes 41.17, just over 42 kilometers an hour for the Lithuanian, and that is the standard for everyone else to beat. So this is the fastest rider out on the course, Lesure, who has gone through the first time split at 16 minutes 58.76. Now heading towards the next of the time splits out on the course, the French rider, who is looking pretty strong. This is the Japanese rider, Eri Yonamine, who is heading now to the 12.5 kilometer point. Is going to be third fastest to there, 17 minutes 16.32. And we'll see whether she can manage to up the pace over the next sector of this individual time trial, that 4 kilometer sector. So when we look, Rochelle, at bike position and we see a rider rocking like this, you've got to really think about the bike position to get the utmost power out of the bike, haven't you? And you don't want to be rocking the hips at all. You want to be nice and steady on the bike, nice straight back, and the power going right through the balls of the feet. Yeah,
I mean, when we get to this level, it's interesting when you see that, because it could be just a natural technique that she rocks in the hips, but you would think that the coach and the managers would have picked this up earlier and lowered the seat a little bit so the hips don't rock so much, or it could just be a lack of abdominal strength. That's another thing that causes the hips to rock a little bit. But for sure, if they could eliminate this, that she could get more power through the pedals, and even 2 kilometers per hour can be, or 1 kilometer per hour can be the big difference between being in the top 10 at the World Championships or not. So it's interesting to see that this rider looks quite good on the bike. The position's good, but the hips are rocking quite a little bit.
When you're out with your the riders in your team, is that something that you're always looking at, just to see whether their positions are good, whether you could change anything?
Yeah, absolutely. We look at that all the time, and it's quite a fragile subject this week, because if you happen to see a rider that's not sitting completely straight on the bike, it may be better at this point not to say anything about it, because if you indicate to a rider that they may be sitting a little bit sideways due to a tight hamstring, or the cleat might have moved or something like that, I think it needs to be approached at this point, this close to the World Championships, with a little bit of delicacy.
That Spanish rider then has finished second fastest of the 2 riders who finished. So Ana Sanchez, 31 minutes 00.42, 19.25 seconds down on the rider from Lithuania, but the rider we're expecting to finish now is going to be Denise Ramsden from Canada, former under-23 national champion, who's been riding strongly out on the course, setting some good times. Is she going to be the first rider to beat the 30-minute barrier in this 22-kilometre time trial? She really has given it everything. That aero hat is creating a little bit of wind turbulence as you drop the head, but she's really near to the finish now, into the last 200 metres. It's going to be close to hitting the 30-minute mark, but she is going to be the fastest rider so far. Denise Ramsden heads up to the finish line here in Florence to complete this World Championship time trial, and the time is just over 30 minutes, 6.46, and a good average speed of 43.4 kilometres an hour for the Canadian. So Canadian riders continue to be seen in World Championship events, as Sama Khaled of Jordan now goes into this first few little meters now of this time trial. Sama Khaled, I think I'm right in saying, is one of the youngest riders in this race, and again, good experience from a nation that we don't see too often in international racing.
Just back to the Canadians for a moment. Clara Hughes, we don't see present on the start list. She made a comeback last year after an amazing career, both in Winter Olympics and Summer Olympics, and we don't see her on the start list today, so perhaps she's retired now for good, but that was a really strong comeback she made last year.
Wasn't she, I think I'm right in saying she's one of the most decorated Canadian sports people ever, as we see Steenen of Switzerland go through the intermediate time split. She's in the Canadian Hall of Fame as a sports person, and is a great Winter Olympian and Summer Olympian, and one of the only Canadian athletes ever to have competed in both Winter and Summer Olympics.
And win gold medals at that.
Exactly.
So she's an absolutely fantastic person as well, so I'm sure she'll stay involved in women's sport for the rest of her life, and she's just an inspiration to many athletes.
You and I were talking about this rider just before the start, Cecilie Jonsson of Norway, who is onto the start ramp now and will be underway in a few moments' time. So Norwegian cycling again with the likes of Thor Hushovd and Edvald Bosenhagen. They've got some great racing up there now. Norwegian fans of cycling are just crazy about the sport, and Cecilie Jonsson, a good rider.
She is. She's a real talent, actually. She's also a mother. Speaking of mothers, just before, she's combining motherhood with training, but she was one of the very few people to outsprint Giorgia Bronzini this year. She managed to do that in China, in the Tour of Busan, and she was the one that Giorgia Bronzini had to compete against on the last stage to win the Tour. So she's definitely a huge talent. I'm not sure how she goes in individual time trials, but she has won quite a few races in this year in women's cycling, so she's definitely a huge talent.
Well, she won't mind us saying she's one of the oldest riders in the race, and she is, as we've already mentioned, she's a rider that we're just going to keep an eye on. You just never know, she could produce one of those performances that suddenly puts her at the pinnacle of the sport, maybe sneak into the top 10. That's a possibility. As yet again we're back with Langvad. We're concentrating on her out on the course. 8 riders have reached the 12.5 kilometre point. Melody Lazur is still the fastest to that point. Denise Ramsden is second. Jutta Steenen of Switzerland is in third place to that point. And at 16.4 kilometres, it's Denise Ramsden quickest. Melody Lazur has gone through their second fastest. And Iri Yonamine of Japan is in third place. Sitsko of Belarus has reached the 12.5 kilometre point, not troubling the top riders. And that time there, we won't, I don't think we'll see Sitsko finish anywhere in the top 10 riders today. This should be the next rider to go, the Latvian. This is Vita Haina, wearing number 29. And the Latvian riders in that burgundy kind of wine-coloured kit with the white and the black shorts. We'll get used to them during the World Titles over the next few days. And if you've not watched World Championship cycling before and you're thinking, hang on a minute, these riders aren't in their normal sponsors kits like Wiggle Honda or Orica Green Edge or Team Sky or whatever. Well, we have the team time trial at the weekend, and then it becomes nation. So you suddenly go from being part of a trade team for the whole year, and then you're in your nations. It's quite a change, isn't it?
I think it's interesting for the riders, and it does add that extra challenge because, for example, the Wiggle Honda athletes were all together in one hotel. They were training for the past couple of weeks together with the team, with a certain team staff as well, and then after Sunday they all split up and go to their own nations, which means they change hotel. They're in a new environment. Most of them keep the same equipment, but they have a new team of staff and people to depend on. So it is a little bit of a change during the World Championships, and interesting that they ride the team time trial for their professional teams, and then they all split up and they go to their nations.
So then you end up on Saturday and Sunday riding against riders that you've been riding with all year. Let's just mention Nantana of Thailand finishes now 33 minutes 18.90, which actually, considering the start where she went off very steady, had a few problems with that aero hat at the start. An average speed of just under 40 k's an hour for the Thailand rider, and that's a good debut in a World Championship. If you're wondering what you just saw then, that was the hot seat. That's where the top 3 riders in the medal positions will be sitting as they wait to find out whether they're going to win a medal or they're not. And it's always a place where you sit and the pressure builds all the time. This is Sara Frech of Slovenia, who's just going to be underway down the start ramp. The luminous green colours that we have got used to of this country, and Sara is now underway. Will be followed by Clemilda Fernandez of Brazil, who I think I'm right in saying was one of the first riders on the attack in the Olympic road race, and has got a sister who also races. I
was just about to say, well, it was either her or a sister, because they often get mixed up a little bit, but she's been around for a long time and also very experienced, probably at World Championship level, so she'll post a fast time out there for sure.
She is a rider who likes to go on the attack in road races and can time trial, so we'll see if Clemilda Fernandez can produce a good time. So at the finish, Denise Ramsden is still the fastest rider, 30 minutes 6.46. The next rider has finished, Alenka Novak, in 32:48.82. So the top 3 are Ramsden, Sosna and Sanchez at the finish line. Canada, Lithuania and Spain, the top 3 nations right now. The next rider to go will be Clemilda Fernandez, we've mentioned, and then the Swedish rider Emilia Fahlin. But I think we're expecting now that this French rider could be the rider to set a standard, possibly to beat Denise Ramsden, but I'm not entirely sure. It's going to be pretty close, Rochelle, by the finish line, as she just tries to get there before the 30-minute mark.
150 meters, I think she's possibly not going to make it. I bet that finish line seems such a long way when you see that 150 meters to go. Oh, it's going to be close.
This is going to be close. Yeah, she's just going to do it. 30 minutes 6.46, and Melody Lazur is going to go top of the leaderboard, 29:55.37. She has beaten Denise Ramsden by 11.09, and looking at that, that's pretty interesting. Over that last sector, she took over 12 seconds out of Denise Ramsden, so she really turned the pressure on.
Well, that's experience, and the French, they're very well known for sneaking into the top 10 at World Championships. We don't know a lot about these riders. They don't race so much during the season, but they always manage to sneak into the top 10 at the World Championships. Oh, we've got a problem here with the Brazilian rider. That's Fernandez.
Fernandez pulled her foot out as she went off the start ramp, and considering her experience, that's something you don't see too often. She obviously just didn't click the pedal in tight enough when she got up there on the start ramp.
I think the thing is with the athletes, when they get on the start ramp and all the nerves come in, that it is something that you really need to double check that you've got your cleats clipped into the pedals really well, because you feel a little bit weak on the start line with all those nerves and a little bit shaky, and sometimes you can think that your foot's clipped in, and obviously in her case it wasn't clipped in really good, and she's pulled her foot up when she's gone off the ramp.
Well, there's all sorts of problems that you can create if you don't get that foot in the pedals, and one of them could have been she toppled over. So thankfully she didn't. She realised that the foot wasn't quite in the pedal, as Oliveira is going to go 5th fastest at this 12.5 kilometre point. Surprisingly, at 12.5 kilometres, Radetic, the Croatian time trial champion, is only 6th fastest, so starting very, very steady. So the top placings at 12.5 kilometres, Melody Lazur, Denise Ramsden, Jutta Steinen at 16.4. Ramsden and Lazur, the two riders changing places, and at the finish it's changed again. It's Lazur, Ramsden and Sosna who are the top 3 riders at that finish line at the moment. The average speed notching up all the time.
It's an interesting concept that they go off to the hot seat, and they'll have the 3 of them up there, the 1st, 2nd and 3rd, and you just sit there with those emotions of, what if that was a fast enough time for me to stay here right to the finish? But as we'll see midway through the field where we're coming up to now, that those riders will start to change quite often. So it could be that you sit on the hot seat for a while, or it could be that you're only there for a couple of minutes.
Well, yesterday, Rochelle, we had the young Australian rider, Alexandria Nichols, who was, I think, the 1st or 2nd rider to start in the junior time trial. She was the fastest rider until the last rider came in.
Well, that's an amazing feeling to sit there and watch all these times, and then you get down to the last 5 and you think, oh, I've been here for a long time and I'm going to stay here. And I guess there's a lot of emotions that go through your mind while you're sitting in the hot seat.
So this is Amelia Farlin, who was 9th in this race in 2011, 9th in 2010. A Swedish rider who's very, very powerful indeed. Is always sneaks into the top 10 places. Can she produce a result today?
Well, I would be surprised if she was on the fastest at this point in the field. You can see that she's definitely one of the most professional riders that we've seen so far. The position there is almost perfect. She's in a really good aerodynamic position there and producing a lot of power. So she's a time trial specialist and a very big name in women's cycling.
She really is churning a gear as well.
She's riding a very big gear. A strong and powerful rider.
A Tony Martin kind of style gear. Yesterday, the team time trial a couple of days ago, he was in a 58 tooth chainring with a 12 or 11 sprocket. It was weight training for the entire race. This is Langvad then, heading in towards the finish of this race through the intermediate time split already. And Langvad, the Danish rider, does look good, but yeah, a constant rocking of the shoulders going on as well as she heads in towards the conclusion of this race. Over this little cobbled section by the Duomo, which shakes you around a little bit. Right, this is the next rider to go. This is Inga Chilvinate of Lithuania, who is now down the start ramp and underway, another of the Lithuanian athletes, and will be followed by the Mexican Ana Casas out on the course. So this is number 25. There we are on the helicopter shot, picking her up as she gets onto the aero skis and gets firmly underway.
It's interesting that we've seen 2 Lithuanians go off so far, and some countries, some nations have decided not to fill all the spots that they've qualified. I think Australia was one of those that had maybe 2 more spots qualified, and they only started 1 rider. The British don't have any starters here today, so it's interesting to see that that some nations choose to fill all the spots and other nations don't fill the spots if they don't think they're going to be a medal chance.
I just want to touch on that in a second, but Kononenko is 4th fastest. Langvad actually has gone fastest at that intermediate split in a blitzing time. We didn't see a race through there of 16 minutes 6.00. So the Danish rider that we've been giving full analysis on in terms of her riding style is the fastest at an average speed of 46.5 kilometers an hour and is 52 seconds faster than Melody Lazur. That's pretty impressive.
That is impressive. And if you think about 46.5 kilometers per hour compared to a team of 6 that raced in the team time trial, sitting on 50 kilometers per hour, that's a pretty impressive ride from one person.
Yeah, absolutely. Very much could be expected of her at the finish if she hasn't gone out too quickly. Steinen now heading to the finish line, and she's going to go quicker. 29:52.99 for the Swiss rider at the finish line, and that's very, very impressive riding over the last sector, because she was 4 seconds down on Denise Ramsden. She was 3 seconds down on Melody Lazure, but she's changed that, taking 5 seconds out of the French rider in the last sector of this time trial over 6 kilometers, and now going top of the leaderboard by 2.38 seconds. So the Mexican rider, Ana Casas, goes down the start ramp and is now underway for Mexico in the green and white colours. So we are seeing constant changes now of this leaderboard. Hopefully we're going to pick up on the rider from Denmark going through this 16.4 kilometre point to see whether she is continuing with this pace of 46 kilometres an hour. Very, very impressive from Annika Langvad of Denmark, and we'll see whether it translates or whether she has just simply done what Lassie Hansen did yesterday and gone out far too hard. So the next rider just going slightly downhill there. There's not too much respite from the flat, but Langvad now, here we go. This is the rider who is fastest on the course and is heading towards the 16.4 kilometre split. So Annika Langvad, look at the time. 45.9 kilometres an hour from Langvad, 21 minutes, 27.51. And Rochelle, you're around women's cycling all the time, and this rider is producing a fantastic performance today.
Absolutely. I mean, she's dropping her pace only 1 kilometre per hour from the first time check, so that's pretty impressive. Be interesting to see how she finishes it off in the last section of the course, but yeah, she looks fast out there and she doesn't look like she's blown up yet, so I think we're going to see a really fast time at the finish.
27 years of age is Annika Langvad of Denmark, started wearing number 34, as we see Eugenia Budziak of Poland start this individual time trial of 22 kilometers. So Langvad is a rider that we didn't really speculate on as a possible top performer today, but as we've talked about in women's racing, women's time trialing in particular, you can go from being a rider who is relatively unknown to suddenly emerge and get in the top 10 placings, because there are lots of women riders who don't necessarily ride road races, who might come from a triathlon background or find that, you know, they're not suited to bunch racing, but they can time trial exceptionally well.
I think that's what happens at the World Championship in the individual time trial. There are so many riders that stay at home and they don't travel so much, they don't do the long tours, and they just concentrate specifically on time trialing. They may come from a triathlon background or from track cycling, and they just concentrate specifically on that discipline, and then we don't know the names so well and they come and put in a really great performance.
So here's the hot seat. That's going to change again shortly because I think Annika Langvad is going to put herself firmly at the top of the leaderboard potentially. We are seeing Jutta Steinen of Switzerland is the fastest rider at the finish, ahead of Melody Lazure and Denise Ramsden. They are the top 3 riders. The Japanese rider sitting on the end there, but is obviously just having a seat for a while. Isn't in the medals.
Well, I think we were talking about the hot seat a couple of days ago, because if a rider is in the hot seat for quite a long time that wants to have a good road race, it's difficult to warm down, to get that nutrition in that you need to get in after the race, and to get back and get a massage. And we see that Tax have put rollers, they've put trainers on the actual hot seat, so you can warm down on the rollers or on the trainer when you're in the hot seat. So that's just one thing that the soigneurs and the masseurs need to think about. When a rider crosses the line, they may need their nutrition and their warm clothing at the hot seat.
When we think about warming down from races over the last few years, it's pretty much changed. We used to see riders just finish, put their clothes on, have a recovery drink, and that was it. But Sky started this whole thing where Brad Wiggins started warming down at the end of a race, and now it seems that everyone's doing it.
Yeah, I think that a lot of people are relying on Sky and big teams like that to do all the research and find out what works best. And obviously, if Sky are doing it and they're warming down on the rollers for 30 minutes after a stage or after a race, that other athletes believe that that's the best method. And we see that a lot of people put a lot of emphasis on warming down and having some active recovery rather than just putting the protein shake in and going straight back to the hotel.
So this Finnish rider has just completed this time trial. Sari Saralainen, 6th fastest, 30 minutes 57.49 seconds for the Finnish rider, as the next rider goes to the start ramp, and this is Shang Peng of Thailand, another Thailand rider. So they've used both their spots in this individual time trial, which is interesting when you consider that Great Britain have no riders at all in this, which honestly, as a British person, I'm really surprised about.
Yeah, I think there was a big clash in the program because, like we just said, the individual time trialers are often from a triathlon or a track background, and Great Britain have a lot of individual time trials that also ride the track, and the track national championships are being held this week also. So it's a bit of a clash in programs with the track nationals and the world championships being on at the same time. Joanna Rousel is the national British champion, and she's not here at the World Championships because she's racing on the track at the National Championships this week in Manchester.
The Croatian rider heading towards the finish line and is not going to beat Steinen's time of 30 minutes 17.42. She finishes in Steinen 29.52.99, the leading time at the moment. But Annika Langvad is a rider who really is motoring out on the course. Looking through what she's done before, she's from Silkeborg in Denmark and is more known as a mountain biker as opposed to a time trialist. But today she's riding very well. This is Jonsson, who we also talked about as a good sprinter, has won some races this year and is continuing with her time trial. But what we really want to see now is Annika Langvad finishing today this time trial and seeing what sort of time she can produce. The next rider to start is the rider from Austria. This is Jacqueline Hahn, taken to the start now, and just concentrating, getting herself ready for this individual time trial, 22 kilometers in the centre of Firenze, the magnificent place that is hosting all these time trials and road races, and different start points from each one as well. We've seen different points for the team time trials, the women's time trials starting and finishing in the centre, and this is the next rider to get underway. Annika Langvad then, so turning our attention more from mountain biking and turning our attention to time trials, and we've seen that on a few occasions. You think about men who have been very good mountain bikers who have turned their attention to being World Grand Tour riders, but this is the rider who's been out on the course that we're talking about, who has been setting a blistering pace today. Annika Langvad heading up towards the finish line. She's absolutely stamping on those pedals as she races to the finish. The time to beat, 29:52.99, and this is going to smash that time out of sight, 28 minutes 27.69, and she has beaten the fastest time by 1 minute 25.30 with an average speed of almost 46 kilometers an hour.
That's really impressive. Like we said before, in the team time trial with 6 riders, the fastest team was just over 50 kilometers per hour. So for one rider to go out there and do the 22 kilometers by herself, you can see she's totally exhausted, and she's really got the best out of herself today. So I think that's a really great time.
And the question now is what sort of rider can ride a time trial over 46 kilometers an hour?
It's very impressive.
Well, she's gone to warm down now. She'll be in the hot seat, and having gone from mountain biking to time trialing, she could shock the cycling world by putting herself maybe in the top 10 and maybe even higher than that.
One of the great examples was Cadel Evans, coming from mountain biking and being a Grand Tour rider and a phenomenal time trial rider. So it is a name that we've not seen very often, and to pull out that time today is very impressive.
Well, so she's that gives you an idea of how tough that was.
Yeah, she's still trying to get the air into her lungs. Yeah, it's great to see that they can get that kind of performance out of themselves.
Well, we'll see what happens as the next rider starts. This is Audrey Cordon, who is a rider who's won 6 races in 2013. She was 15th in the Olympic individual time trial, is a good time trialist, a good road racer as well. So Audrey Cordon, we would expect to be getting somewhere towards the sort of times of Langvad out on the course.
It will also be interesting to see how the Swedish rider Emilia Fallen goes. She's out on the course now, and she was the one that was riding the really big gear and looked super strong. She's got a great position and a great reputation for being a fantastic time trial rider. So I think that'll be the next fast time that we see come in, and also Johnson.
So up on the start ramp is a Norwegian rider, Thea Thorsen, getting ready for the start. This Danish rider has really produced a result so far that could mean that she could be sitting in that hot seat. It's nicely designed, with all the Shimano components sitting around her, one of the sponsors of the World Championships. She could be a rider that could be sitting there for a long time. This is Kononenko heading towards the finish line. The time to beat, 28:27.69. She's not going to do that, but she could be putting herself in the hot seat if she can sprint all the way to the finish line. Kononenko of the Ukraine, with that little rocking style, starting to tire, heading towards the finish line. The time to beat for the silver medal at this moment is 29:52.99. She's getting close. She's inside the last couple of 100 meters. It is a long way up this finishing straight, totally flat, and no twists and turns in it. She's just going to be outside, but she is going to be third fastest so far, 29:54.71 for Kononenko, who has accelerated as this time trial's continued. So Annika Langvad is a rider that we know from mountain biking. She was a marathon world champion at mountain biking, but has not ridden on the road. She has decided to turn her attention to riding more road racing events. She rode her first ever World Cup in 2010 in England, and she finished 22nd then, and then went on to get more used to riding mountain biking, but she has ridden today, and certainly she's a rider without doubt who can really hurt herself. So this is number 18 out on the course, Thea Thorsen. 19 riders have reached the 12.5 kilometre point. The fastest time is 16 minutes and 6 seconds from Annika Langvad. Cecile Jonsson is second, and Melody Lazur is third at 16.4 kilometres as Emilia Fallen races through that time split, 7th fastest, 1 minute 3.68 down on Annika Langvad. So Emilia Fallen not roaring along this course today.
It doesn't look like it's going to be one of her best rides today. Like we said, she has been in the top 10 at the World Championships, and I think this year's been not her greatest year, but she did win the Swedish National Championships in June, out-sprinting Amy Johansson, so that was quite an impressive ride for her mid-season, but as we can see, she's not having a fantastic ride today, but she is pushing that big gear, which is a different technique than we've seen with these other riders.
Yeah, the cadence of these riders is an awful lot higher than we've seen with Emilia Fallen. Back to the start ramp then, and the next rider to go is Martina Ritter of Austria, wearing number 17. So 48 riders go today in this individual time trial, and Martina Ritter is now underway through that first right-hander, and will set herself up and get onto those aero skis and start to kick on a little bit. So at the finish then, Annika Langvad is the leader. Jutta Steinen of Switzerland is in second place, and Kononenko, who we saw finish just a moment ago, is in third place. But the difference in average speed of Langvad and Steinen is over 2 kilometers an hour. So someone really is going to have to absolutely power on to try and beat Langvad today. This is the Lithuanian rider, who has been out on the course for a little while, reaching the 12.5 kilometre point with an average speed of 44.7. This is Chilvinarte of Lithuania, who has raced through there and goes second fastest, 41.21 seconds down on Annika Langvad of Denmark. And that means that Langvad, Chilvinarte and Jonsson are the top three at the 12.5 kilometre point so far. This is Thorsen out on the course. The GPS now able to give us a little bit of a reference point as to how these riders are comparing to the rider who has been setting the fastest times out on this route today. And I'm looking back in history and seeing the last Danish rider to actually take a medal in these championships. She's smiling away to herself. Let's just turn our attention here to a rider who rides for Orica Green Edge, a Dutch rider. This is Loes Gunnevik, who has re-signed for Orica Green Edge for the 2014 season and one of the non-Aussies on that squad.
Yeah, and she's actually the team captain. I think we're going to see a really good ride. We haven't spoken about her, but she's definitely one of the favourites for a top 5 today. She's got so much experience, and she, like I said, she's been named the captain of the Orica Green Edge team. So she's the one that calls the shots on the road if they have a disruption with the radio, speaking to the coach behind. So she's the team leader of Orica Green Edge, and I think we're going to see a great ride from her today.
So in terms of teams out on the road, the setup of them in a road race, do you always try and nominate a captain who can use what you're thinking and try and interpret what's going on in the team car and going on in the race?
Yeah, definitely. The women only race with race radios at World Cup races, so the majority of racing is without radios. So you need to appoint one rider in the team to be the team captain and to take responsibility of calling the shots. You can't have 6 women out there saying we should do this, we should do that. So Loes Gunnevik, she takes a lot of the responsibility for the Orica Green Edge, and she makes the calls on whether we close this gap, whether we attack, how we do the race. So she has a lot of responsibility within that team, and as you said, she signed again next year, so obviously the team's been happy with the calls that she's made, and she's really, really experienced. She's 31 years of age. She got into cycling when she was 15. She was doing speed skating, and she decided to ride a bike for training and to get to and from school, and now she's a professional cyclist and one of the most well-known team leaders.
Loes Gunnevik, then we'll see what sort of time she can produce. This rider heading towards the finish line now. This is Jonsson from Norway. Rochelle, you said this rider could produce a good performance today and has been going quicker and quicker out on the course. Could be heading here for the second fastest time so far. It's going to be close, but she's going to do it by the looks of things. Hits the line now, 29:49.40. So Jonsson goes second quickest, and it's all about Scandinavia at the moment.
Yeah, the Scandinavian countries have been surprising today, but Jonsson's a rider that we know that she's got some experience. I think she comes from a football background, soccer as we say in Australia, but she's definitely a rider that we know after this year she got quite a few great results.
Well, this rider who is sitting in the hot seat, who can sit there, can relax, and can enjoy the moment. This is Elisa Longo Borghini. The Tifosi are going to cheer her on around the route and give her a big, big lift. A bronze medalist in the World Championship road race last year. Remember when Marianne Vos went rocking over the Kalberg and left everybody in that sprint. This rider's also won the Trofeo Alfredo Binder as well. She's a good bike rider. I think I'm right in saying had a bit of a bad crash earlier on in the season, but Elisa Longo Borghini underway as we see the next rider go along the river, and the crowds are getting bigger and bigger. Borghini, any chance here today, do we think?
Oh yeah, she's a big talent. She's quite young, but she was one of the favourites for this year's Giro d'Italia, and she actually crashed in the Italian National Championships. She was away solo by herself, only a few kilometres from the finish on a descent. She came down, she had a nasty accident. No one thought that she would even be back for the World Championships, and here she is riding the individual time trial. So she had some really bad injuries. I think she broke her pelvis in that accident, and also had a really large laceration on her stomach. So to be able to have those two major injuries and come back this quick is quite amazing.
So she can certainly deal with adversity. We'll see whether Elisa Longo-Borghini now can produce a result. She's looking good. She looks very, very relaxed on the front of that bike, doesn't she? She has a really nice style. Just those shoulders look like they have no tension in them whatsoever.
She definitely looks comfortable on the bike, and she is one of the outside favourites for today, so she could produce a really fast time, but that was a surprising time that we've seen by the Danish rider, so a significant lead that she has there. So Elisa Longo-Borghini, she's only 21 years of age, riding for Italy, and made that remarkable comeback. So,
well, we've seen the Danish rider who was fastest on the course, and the second place rider can't get anywhere close. 52 seconds is the deficit for Chilvinate of Lithuania. It is Langvad still who has blazed the trail along the course. This is number 18, who is the Norwegian rider. This is Thea Thorsen, who's in a big gear now, but still the reference points are showing that only Lewis Gurnovic, who Rochelle has said could be a rider to produce a ride today, is getting anywhere close to the time of Langvad. This is Tufshin Jargal of Mongolia. We won't say that name too many times in commentary, but we've managed to pronounce it straight away, and I'll manage to produce that at the finish line, and we'll see how we get on. Brulé now of Belgium. Belgium have had a good day today. They've already got a world title in the men's junior time trial earlier on today. He was the last rider to actually go out on the route, Igor de Crene of Belgium, and he took the world title. So the Belgians are feeling pretty good. This is the Norwegian rider out on the course. This is Thorsen. Longo-Borghini 11 seconds, 12 seconds down on Langvad at this point. Gurnovic holding steady at 3 seconds, so she is riding strongly in the opening few kilometres of this time trial. Whilst we turn our attention back to the next rider on the starting ramp, and this is a young rider from Italy. Again, the Italians will like to see the Azzurri blue as they cheer them along the route. This is Rosella Rato, who rides for the high-tech squad, 6th in the World Championship road race previously, and Rosella Rato, good road racer.
She's made quite a name for herself, and I think she's one of the youngest riders in this race today, so it will be really interesting how she goes, but she's definitely got a long career ahead of her, a very, very talented rider.
Rosella Rato, only 19 years of age, so you're right, Rochelle, one of the youngest riders in this field. There's a couple of riders at 19, and there's about a month between them in terms of their birthdays. So it's incredible to see, isn't it, where you see young riders go from junior level straight into these world level ranks. They have to compete against older riders, but they still produce good performances. And I know you've got young riders in your team, like the world junior champion Eleanor Barker, who isn't riding this time trial today, but she still competes with the elite riders.
Yeah, as a first-year senior, she won a world championship on the track this year, so that's quite impressive. But it's interesting in women's cycling because we saw at the Olympics in London that the average age on the podium for the individual time trial was, I think it was about 36, so that's quite old. Yet we see these younger riders come out and produce really great performances, and it's really promising because they have such long careers if they want them.
And also with what's going on in women's cycling now, and I know that, you know, years ago when I commentated on some of the Women's World Cups, maybe 4 or 5 years ago, there were small fields, there wasn't the sponsorship involved in it, and there's still a long way to go, but I must say the leaps and bounds that women's cycling's making now and the excitement it produces is just fantastic.
It is. The racing's become very exciting, and the athletes are just so professional these days. They're like living the life like the men's, that they put every single thing into their sport, and it's their profession now. In women's cycling 10 years ago, it may have just been a hobby, but now it's a true profession, and there is more sponsors getting involved in women's cycling, and seeing that the TV coverage they're getting today and the more TV coverage that they get in the future, that it's a worthy investment for sponsors and allowing the athletes to give everything to their sport and their passion.
Well, it's absolutely right. You see, I can still remember last year in the Olympic road races, we see Bujak heading towards the 16.4 kilometre point. Langvad is still the leader at that point, but Bujak goes third fastest for Poland. I can still remember the 3 riders turning that bottom corner on the Mall in London 2012 with Marianne Vos and Zabelinskaya and Lizzie Armistead, and it was a thrilling moment, and I think everyone that day realised how good women's cycling actually was. So a big performance required to win this world title. We just saw Jolie Newmanville of Canada go off the start ramp, a rider who's finished third in the Tour of Flanders as a Canadian time trial champion. Thorsen is able to power a massive gear. She's turning those pedals over with a pretty low cadence compared to some of the other riders, compared to Elisa Longo-Borghini here, who is spinning along and is 18 seconds down on Langvad at this point. Gurnovic now 9 seconds down, but Longo-Borghini can see is really motoring.
She is definitely. You had a little bit of a stutter with her name there, which is interesting because we Longo-Borghini, Elisa Longo-Borghini. Her nickname is Lamborghini. It's much easier just to remember, and she rides like a Lamborghini as well, so she's quite fast.
Let's just call her Lamborghini then.
Elisa Longo-Borghini, definitely a name to remember. She's got a huge future ahead of her, but yeah, she rides a bike like a Lamborghini.
Let's just call her Lamborghini for the rest of today. This is Gana Solovey of the Ukraine, who's had a few problems in her career. She's underway now through the right-hander. Let's see what sort of time she can produce as we see Emilia Farlin racing towards the finish line now. She's going to cross the line in 30 minutes and around about 20 seconds. 30 minutes 20.12, and Emilia Farlin is 9th fastest so far.
Yeah, like we said before, that was interesting that she was pushing such a big gear. Obviously, that didn't work for her today. It may have been a tactic or something new that we've not seen before from Emilia, but she looked strong and solid on the bike, but that definitely wasn't one of her best rides out there today.
So I'm thinking now about the riders who are due to start. So Ellen van Dijk, Linda Willemsen, Evie Stevens, Shara Gillow, Zabelinskaya. They're warming up not far from this finish line. They'll want to know the time of Annika Langvad, and they'll know how quick they can go, but some of those riders now mentally will be wondering how they can hit a speed of over 45k an hour.
Well, that's the advantage that they have now that such a fast time has been set. They know that they need to sit over 46 kilometres per hour the entire race. They will have the experience of knowing how to pace themselves, so they will have the computer on their bike and they'll be able to see that they need to sit over 46 kilometres per hour. So they'll have a good indication of what they can do on this course. Like we said, it's very fast and there's hot mix, so it's possibly faster than they could do on other roads, but they'll definitely know what they're capable of, and I think a lot of the top seeds will actually be a little bit worried about that time.
The Lithuanian rider then, Chilvinate, has now finished in second place so far, 1 minute 3.47 down on the time of Annika Langvad, as we now see the start of the German rider Trixie Warwick. Only 10 riders left to start, who was 8th in this time trial last year, 9th in London 2012 in the individual time trial. Trixie Warwick now underway for Germany.
She's already a world champion this week, so she's pulled on the world champions jersey in the team time trial. She comes from a very strong team, Specialized Lululemon, and she's one of those riders that I'd say would be in the top 10.
Well, when you've already won the world title, that gives you all the motivation you need. You want to go out there, you want to feel that feeling of glory and winning again. The podium is right opposite Rochelle and I's commentary box. When we pull the blind up, because it's pretty hot, the sun's right in our faces, we can just watch the riders on the podium. So any rider who's going to be on there will pull on the rainbow bands. It will be a moment they will remember for the rest of their lives, as Lamborghini continues with her time trial. 23 seconds down at this reference point. Luz Gurnovic 15 seconds down, and Elisa Longo-Borghini just trying to get a little bit more pace out of that bike.
Well, she would definitely be below her absolute best after that accident that she had in June this year. It knocked her around a little bit. She was actually in a wheelchair. She came out to the Giro d'Italia and she watched a couple of stages from the side of the road in a wheelchair. That was probably due to her broken pelvis, but to come back this quick is really amazing.
That's incredible. Well, you know, we saw Geraint Thomas ride the Tour de France with a cracked pelvis. We still don't know how he managed to do that. but this rider had a terrible crash, is back and is competing at world level as we see the next rider to go. This is Tatiana Antoshina of Russia, who was 9th in 2009, so she's been in the top 10 in a World Championship individual time trial previously. This Russian rider, a good time trialist. Can she produce a top 10 performance today?
Well, she's certainly very experienced. She's 31 years of age, and she actually rides for an Italian team, the Cipollini Giordana team, so she'll feel a little bit at home. Probably she speaks the language Italian, and she would have already been out to see this course a few times. I believe it's been difficult to see in the car due to the chaos and the traffic in Tuscany, but
it's busy, isn't it?
Yeah, it's really busy out there.
So she's underway now. That Cipollini team, complete contrasting colours to the colours she's in right now. The fluo yellow of Cipollini. So the next rider coming in, Casas of Mexico, is going to be outside the 30-minute point. Langvad still the leader, 28 minutes, 27.69. So thanks for joining us for this World Championship individual time trial. If you're wondering who's the voice that's alongside me today, warm welcome to Rochelle Gilmore, who of course is the team manager of Wiggle Honda and has ridden world level in women's cycling for so many years, blazing a trail and I think the game changer in world cycling as far as women's racing is concerned. So she's giving us the insight as to what is going on. This is Taya Thorsen out on the road, who is stamping her way over the slabbed area around the Duomo as she heads towards the finish. The wind's starting to pick up a little bit, Rochelle, in the finishing straight. You can see the flag starting to blow a little bit more as we see Bujak trying to beat the time of the Lithuanian to put herself in the top 3.
Well, it is interesting that the wind's picked up, because that's the thing about individual time trials, that so much can change within the space of half an hour, and those riders that are going off later will be disadvantaged with the wind picking up.
So Bujak finishes 3rd fastest in a time of 29 minutes, 36.25. We go to the next rider to start. This is the German time trial champion from Germany, 25 years of age. Lisa Brennauer is on the start ramp and underway. Another very powerful time trialist.
Well, she was also among that team that won the gold medal, and she would have pulled on the World Championship jersey just 2 days ago. So I think her morale will be high, and she knows that she's one of the best time trialers in the world. So to already have that World Championship under your belt this week will give you that extra motivation and allow you to get the best out of yourself today.
So the road captain of Orica heading through the 12.5 kilometre point and goes second quickest at that point. Luce Gernovic, 16 minutes 23.57. A little bit of an adopted Australian as far as the Orica team is concerned. And Luce Gernovic now pushes Bujak down into 3rd place. So at 12.5 kilometres, Annika Langvad is the leader. Luce Gernovic in 2nd place. Eugenia Bujak in 3rd place as we look down on the German time trial champion Lisa Brennauer, who is getting into this time trial and is starting to motor a little bit into the shaded area, going to the right-hand side of the road. Yesterday we saw the Australian rider Damien Howson taking every single possible advantage he could out on the route, going left and right where some riders didn't, and going the shortest way to the finish line, which gave him the gold medal. This is Solveig, who is 18 seconds down on Langvad. We're seeing Trixie Warwick 6 seconds down at this point, and Antoshina just inside 10 seconds down on the Danish rider, who is in the hot seat at the finish.
So at the moment we see Trixie Warwick as the closest person to the leader, who's sitting in the hot seat. But she won the National German Road Championship this year, so she's part of one of the strongest teams in the world, as is this rider, Carmen Small. She's been an impressive rider this year.
She certainly has. She won the Thüringer Rundfahrt, one of the stages there. She was a Nordic skier before she turned her attention to being a cyclist, and Carmen Small is underway. She is a small but powerful rider and really can ride a time trial.
We're seeing all these riders go off. Lisa and Carmen were both a part of the World Championship team that won team time trial a couple of days ago. So Carmen Small really impressed the world this year, because she's been in women's cycling for a long time, but she signed with Specialised Lululemon, and she's pulled off a couple of really great, impressive wins this year.
Yeah, she's riding very, very well indeed this season, as we see Longa Borghini now heading towards this intermediate time split at 12.5 kilometres, racing through there, 30 seconds down. Third fastest so far for Longa Borghini at 12.5 kilometres. 31 riders have reached that point on the route. Carmen Small there, wearing number 7. I don't know if you remember last year, you and I rode around the Coburg circuit. You left me behind on the hill. But Carmen Small was sitting behind us for some of that ride, and she never stops talking on the bike.
No, she's a very social athlete, actually. She's a great chick, and I think that they would really love to have her on Specialised Lululemon. Also, for her personality, it's really important to have a rider in the team that just can lift the morale and friendly, and she's always smiling. So she's a great person, and she really lifts the atmosphere and the morale in a team.
Well, she was talking away whilst this rider recovers at the finish. I couldn't breathe at that point, but she was still chatting. The next rider to start, right, this could be a rider who could be in with a chance of a medal. This is Olga Zabelinskaya, the bronze medalist in London 2012 in the road race. She's a rider who has raced a lot this season, but she produced a great ride in the team time trial the other day, and she is very, very powerful.
She is. She's the one that we said was also a mother. So she's been on the podium at the Olympics, and she didn't race so much this year, but she came back for the last couple of races, and she showed that she was coming back into form. But I think these type of riders, Olga herself, she targets the championships. She's always one that you could put your money to be on the podium at a championship. 33
years of age as she goes out on the course. This is Longa Borghini. The Italian fans are enjoying watching her race through this magnificent area of Florence. Around this area is all the cafes. You can sit out, you can just enjoy a relaxing espresso or a cappuccino and just enjoy the racing. Longa Borghini racing through on the cow horns as opposed to on the aero skis, just making sure she doesn't make any mistakes on that little slabbed area.
It's interesting when they go across those pave, those little stones that they lift themselves up into the cow horns. And I think that would be the comfort of the bike would be dependent on what pressure they run in their tyres. And given that most of the course is a hot mix, I think a lot of riders will be running a high pressure in their tyres, and when they get to those stones that they really feel them because the bike's so rigid and the pressure in the tyres is so hard.
Yeah, I mean, these bikes are not built to go around corners, are they? They're built for straight line speed, go as fast as possible. The bottom brackets, if you look at those, they're really deep carbon, so they're very, very stiff indeed, and the rear stays even wider as well. So you've got absolutely no give in them at all. They're just pure, fast bikes for going flat out. Zabelinskaya is looking good.
Yeah, she rides for the Russian team, Rusvelo, so 33 years of age, and one of the favourites, targets the championships, and she certainly does look good there.
She kind of sits slightly with her head to the left-hand side. I don't know if you've probably noticed that. It's a style that she's always had. She doesn't sit completely straight.
I've not noticed that before, but obviously it's not hindering her performances. She had some great performances.
This is the rider who has been getting close to the time of Langvad, but she's dropping away a little bit now. So Lurskirnovic at 16.4 kilometres is 32.89 seconds down, as we see the Swedish rider Emma Johansson never finished in the top 10 in an individual time trial at the World Championships, but she's won prologues. She's a good time trialist, and we'll see whether Emma Johansson, who of course also rides for Orica, can now produce a time trial to put herself in the top 10.
It's interesting that she's not finished in the top 10 in a World Championship time trial, because she is actually ranked #1 in the world at the moment, and it's been a long time since we've seen somebody in #1 that's not Marianne Vos. A really interesting thing happened last week at the Tour of Tuscany, where the riders, including Marianne Vos, decided not to start the last stage, which I think was amazing, because if Marianne Vos had raced on that day, she would have slipped back into #1 in the world.
Really?
But as it stands today, Emma Johansson is ranked #1 in the world.
Wow, okay. And Marianne Vos didn't even take to the start knowing that she could have become #1 ranked rider. Wow.
Exactly.
Okay. Zabelinskaya is 4 seconds down at this point on Langvad. No one is getting too close to this Danish rider. Are we going to see the biggest upset of these World Championships in this individual time trial? It's pretty impressive so far. No one is getting anywhere near her. This is Audrey Cordon heading towards the finish line. 26 riders have completed this individual time trial, and Audrey Cordon of France is heading to the line now. She's going to finish 4th fastest, 29:43.95, an average speed of 44 kilometers an hour, and good enough for 4th place. The Italian rider then, heading towards the 16.4 kilometer point. These times are going to come thick and fast now, because soon all the riders will be out on the course. Longa Borghini goes 3rd fastest in a time of 22 minutes 2.62. Her average speed 44.638. Here we go, Rochelle. This is Shara Gillow of Australia.
Well, Australia would definitely be hoping that she'll make the podium today. She's one of the very few riders that have beaten the race favourite, Ellen van Dijk. But I'm sure that they're not aware of this Danish rider that's posted the fastest time. But that's definitely something that they can work to. They'll have the coach in the car behind Shara, which I believe would be Martin Brass. And he'll be indicating to her whether she's on schedule to beat that time or not.
This is Jolie Newmanville of Canada, who's raced through their 4th fastest, 39.08 seconds down on the time of the fastest rider. She's a good classics rider. She's finished in the top 3 in the Tour of Flanders. She's got some good results as we go back out on the course with Olga Zabelinskaya, and we'll see what sort of time she posts at the 12.5 kilometer point. Carmen Small now is the only rider getting close to Langvad, just 5, now 6 seconds down on this Danish mountain biker, has turned her attention to time trialling with incredible effect. Right now, none of the world's top riders are getting anywhere close to this rider from Denmark, who is sitting firmly in the hot seat, and we could be looking at a rider who could put herself in with taking a gold, silver or bronze medal and surprising the rest of the riders in women's world cycling.
Would be very interesting to know how much that wind is affecting the world's best riders. They're going off at the end of the field, the last riders, because that's a huge time gap between the Danish and the other best cyclists in the world, and those individual time trial riders that we expect to be in the top 3 now, that they're out there on the course and they're not even close to her time. So it would be very interesting to know how much that wind has actually picked up out there.
Well, when you think about it, Rochelle, we're down on the banks of a river, aren't we? And generally the river will get the wind blowing up it at some point, so it could really affect them. Solveig now has gone 2nd fastest at 12.5 kilometers. She's 10 seconds down, so 16 minutes 16 is the time for the Ukrainian at the 12.5 kilometer point. Langvad leads, Solveig 2nd, Gunevik 3rd at that point. Here's the American now, Evie Stevens, the silver medalist last year, 6th in 2010. Big hopes for Evie Stevens. She had a terrible crash earlier on in the year where she knocked her front teeth out, and now she's recovered too. Yeah,
it was a terrible crash in one of the first races, UCI races of the year in Italy. Very unfortunate. I think it was taking a roundabout or coming back from a puncture. I remember that she was following a car through a roundabout and just clipped the curb coming out of the roundabout, and it was a pretty nasty accident that took a long time for her to come back from.
Well, it's great to see that she is back as we are here with Zabelinskaya, and you can see and hear how fast she's going. That disc wheel making a great noise on the road, but she's not getting anywhere close to Langvad, who is still 12 seconds ahead of Zabelinskaya at this point on the route. It could be that as they go along the river, this wind is picking up. When I look at the finishing straight, it's not blowing too much, but the flags that we're seeing certainly are blowing a little bit more than they were earlier on today. But somewhere on the course, it's certainly stronger than it was previously. Solveig is the only rider getting anywhere close, really, in terms of the intermediate time splits. So she could challenge as this race continues. And bearing in mind she's got about 6 or 7 kilometres now to go to the end.
Well, she did win the under-23 European Individual Time Trial Championship. She hadn't raced for a while, so that was a very impressive win, and she's put her name back on the on the board.
Trixie Warwick goes second fastest, 16 minutes 13.81, 7.81 seconds slower than the time of Langvad, but she is the only rider so far who's got somewhere close to the time of the Danish rider. And we know Trixie Warwick's background. We know she's got a good stamina. She could come back towards the finish. Here we go now. This is Lurs Skjernevic as she races up to be the 30th rider to complete this 22-kilometre time trial. The captain of Orica as she races up towards the finish line. It's a long, long straight. She's inside the last couple of 100 metres. Langvad's time, 28 minutes, 27.69. But Lurs Skjernevic looks like she will be second fastest. She gets out of the saddle to just try and get a little bit more pace out. She's going to cross the line now, so the Dutch rider does go second fastest, 29:12.42, but she's still 44 seconds down on the Dane.
It just goes to show how impressive that time from the Danish rider was. It was a really big surprise.
So here is the rider from New Zealand, the most consistent rider in World Championship time trialling. From New Zealand, silver medalist and 3 bronze medals. This is Linda Willemsen as she's already into the aero tuck and underway. And Rochelle, you know this rider very, very well indeed. You know what she's been going through in the last few days building up.
Absolutely, Linda's put 100% into this, and we've built her a new bike just 5 days ago. So she's on a new bike with the electronic Campagnolo EPS, and she's got a new disc wheel. So the bike's just completely been rebuilt for this event, and that'll give her that extra confidence today.
So she's got Wanting for Nothing as the final rider starts of the 48 riders starting today. Ellen van Dijk of the Netherlands, who has been 5th in his time trial, 6th, 8th in London 2012. Won the Chrono Champenois just a couple of weeks ago as a build-up to this race. So Ellen van Dijk now underway. All the riders in this World Championship time trial are now out on the course as we look at the finish of Elisa Longo-Borghini, the Lamborghini herself, as Rochelle's called, up towards the finish line. She's not going to beat the time of Langvad of 28:27.69, but she's desperately trying to get herself onto the podium. The next time to beat, 29:12.42 of Lurs Skjernevic. As you can see, the flags on the left-hand side behind the barriers. It's calmed down just a little bit now over the last couple of minutes. Is Longo-Borghini going to go second quickest, racing to the finish line? The Italian now, it's going to be very, very close. She hits the line and she's just inside the time of Skjernevic, 29:11.76. She goes second quickest.
Well, apart from that impressive time by the Dane, that shows that Elisa Longo-Borghini is in form for the World Championships, and it's just amazing how she's come back after that accident in June and the broken pelvis. To do that ride today is really phenomenal.
Very well done to Elisa Longo-Borghini, now second fastest at the finish. So as things stand right now, the fastest rider is Langvad. Longo-Borghini is second. Lurs Skjernevic is third. Solovey is dropping away a little bit now from the leaders. The Ukrainian rider, 14 seconds down. So we'll see whether any of the big names that we would expect to be there are going to produce times that get somewhere close to this time of Annika Langvad, who's sitting in the hot seat and is a rider who could be looking at a medal here in these World Championships. This is Antoshina of Russia as she stays on the skis over the cobbled bit of the course. This is Lisa Brennauer of Germany. 16:06 is the time of Langvad, and Brennauer is going to be 6th fastest in 16:26.47.
It'd be interesting to know also how much energy it's been taken out of her after the team time trial. She really lifted to the level of the likes of Evie Stevens and Ellen van Dijk, so that would have been a really hard ride for her. Here we see the ranked #1, first rider we've seen to match the time of Langvad.
Well, it's taken a while, so only 3 riders now are matching the times of this Danish rider. Evie Stevens is 1 second quicker at this point on the course. Ellen van Dijk Ellen van Dijk's suddenly gone to 7. I don't think that could be right. Maybe the GPS has moved away a little bit. Now it's back. 1 second. We both took a big gasp then. Linda Willemsen is 0.06 faster than Langvad. This is going to go right down to the sprint up the finishing straight if this continues.
These are really close times by these three out there on the course, and they look quite relaxed because they're just so finely tuned to this this event. They ride their time trial bikes quite often and specifically prepare for the individual time trials. So here we see Trixie Warwick. I think she's just outside the top times there, but also already a world champion this week.
This rider now has recovered, she's relaxed, she's watching the screen in front of her as Elisa Longo-Borghini goes in to take the place in the second hot seat. This is Carmen Small. This is a good performance. She is out on the course and is starting to motor. The time to beat at this split, look at that. Carmen Small goes quickest. 16 minutes 3.93 for the American. And Rochelle, you said this rider could produce a time trial today, and she's rocking and rolling now. She's gone fastest.
Well, I think that she's thinking in her mind this is the year if she's going to reach the podium at a World Championship. 2 years ago, we would never have thought Carmen Small would be on the podium, but this year she's had so many impressive rides and she's lifted to the level of her Specialized Lululemon team. So she's put herself on the board as one of the favourites today.
Well, it's fantastic to see. Evie Stevens, even with Langvad at the moment. Willemsen and Van Dijk. So we're here with Carmen Small. She's really starting to ride very, very well indeed as she goes through these corners. Just looking at Annika Landvad and what she's done in her past, she's always been a mountain biker, but in June this year she rode the National Championships of Denmark in the time trial and she won that. So that's why she's riding today, but she then started to continue to ride mountain bike events. She hasn't changed as Rato heads towards the finish line. She's going to be slightly outside, oh, she's just inside the top 6, 29.43.21. She pushes Corden down to 7th place. But all year she's been riding World Cup mountain bike events and everything else. She's only ridden one major time trial when she won the Danish Time Trial Championship. She's ridden the Danish Road Race Championships, but she's sitting there in the hot seat as the leading rider. Now we're looking at 12.5 kilometers and the arrival of Zabelinskaya, who is outside the time of Carmen Small, who is the fastest rider at 12.5 kilometers. Zabelinskaya, she will start a bit more steady maybe and start to accelerate.
She's definitely got the experience, and as we said, she's also a mother, so that's probably made her a stronger bike rider in the late part of her career. But she's consistent at championships more recently, so she made the podium in London at the Olympics, and then we didn't see much of her. Came back at the end of the season, and now she's proving that she's in contention again for another championship podium.
So to give you an idea of average speed, Carmen Small's average speed at 12.5 kilometers is 46.683 kilometers an hour. Langvad is 46.583, and Trixie Warwick is the third fastest at that point, 46.210. Here we are with Linda Willemsen, who is now separated just a slender point between her and Ellen van Dijk. Carmen Small, Trixie Warwick. It is right head-to-head between these riders. This is going to be an incredible 22 kilometers with Langvad, who has surprised everybody, and all these riders having to really ride the time trial of their lives to try and win this world title. Ellen van Dijk then, we get the chance to look at her for the first time. She's such a powerful bike rider. She's got that slightly lower frontal area that she's managed to do. She's got risers though on the aero bars, but she manages to tuck herself right in to create a nice cut through into the wind. The contrast to Willemsen, who has the hands are much more low, but she's a shorter rider and she's very, very fast.
Well, Willemsen is actually a much smaller rider than Van Dijk, and you can see there that they've both got very aerodynamic positions and obviously put a lot of time and effort into that, and you can see how close the times are, so every little thing makes a difference today.
This is Solveig, though, who is heading up to the finish line, and Langvad is the leader, 28:27.69. Solveig's going to go very, very close. 28:30.66. Solveig of the Ukraine goes second fastest to Langvad by 2.97 seconds. Well, she increased her pace all the way along the course. 41 riders have reached the 12.5 kilometre point. The fastest rider at that point is Carmen Small. Looking down now on number 7 out on the course, and this is Carmen Small, who is trying now to set the fastest time at the finish. She is going to reach the 16.4 kilometre point shortly. That'll give us an idea of whether she has gone out too quickly or whether she is accelerating. It looks to us, it looks to me certainly like she's accelerating. Here she goes at 16.4 kilometres. She goes through there now, and her time is getting faster. 21:23.25 for the American, who now is starting to open up a gap between her and Langvad. She's opened up another 2 seconds over 4 kilometres.
This looks painful, that pain on Trixie Warwick's face as she comes into the finish. Looks like a tough ride.
Certainly does. It's very, very warm out here. It's about 27 degrees, and Trixie Warwick is still going fast, though. Look at this, 28:27.69, and this is why it's hurting so much. She's in a huge gear. Trixie Warwick, she's not going to be able to accelerate. She's just going to power it her way all the way to the finish line, and out on the course, she has accelerated all the way to the finish line. Trixie Warwick is going to now topple Langvad at the finish line. Trixie Warwick goes fastest, 28:19.84, and she beats the time by 7.85 seconds, and that means that over the last sector of this course, she's taken 13 seconds out of Annika Langvad.
That's experience from Trixie Warwick to be able to pace herself and come back that hard. You can see that was very painful in the last 200 metres there, but she kept driving that big gear, and I bet the lactic acid was really burning in the legs there. So it'll be difficult for her to sit in the hot seat now watching the other riders come in.
The lactic acid had reached her eyeballs at this point. That was pretty painful. She's now can't even stand up. That's what it takes to try and win a medal in a World Championship. Well, we've been talking about Langvad all the time, and what a performance this rider from Denmark has put in. But the leaderboard changes. The German rider, Trixie Warwick, goes to the top of the leaderboard. She's finished in the top 10 in 2012. She finished in the top 10 in the Olympic Games, and Trixie Warwick now has set the standard for everyone else to beat. This is Zablinskaya at 16.4 kilometres. She's fourth fastest, 21:34.85. The question is whether she is accelerating at all. I think she's staying around about the same sort of level. Look at this, though. Evie Stevens heads now towards 12.5 kilometres. The time to beat is her contemporary from the United States of America, Carmen Small. Evie Stevens is now trying to beat the time of 16 minutes 3.93. She's going to be very, very close, but it's 16:05.96, so she's put herself in the ballpark. She's there, and she's in second place.
That was it's an impressive time whether Carmen Small holds on to the first position.
This is Antoshina now, heading towards the finish line. She's also going quick as she races to the line now. Is she going to be inside the time of Langvad? The answer is no, but she's just outside the top 3. Antoshina, 28:30.75, 45.9 kilometres an hour. We're starting to see some great performances from these athletes. We're seeing the times getting getting closer and closer to what is going to win this gold medal. Out here on the course, Ellen van Dijk. Here's the indication that Van Dijk is absolutely roaring out on this course. She is faster than every other rider. She kicks herself back in the saddle. The effort is telling on the Dutch rider. Has she now got the consistency all the way along this course to be the world champion? Willemsen is the second fastest rider on the course. What we want to see is the 12.5 kilometre point, Rochelle, and the indication of how all these riders are doing.
Well, it certainly looks like Ellen van Dijk is holding a higher pace than the other riders, and that was what was expected of her. She's a very, very strong rider, and looks like that she can just manage to hold that speed a little bit higher than the other riders, and I would be very surprised if she drops off towards the finish. She has that experience, and she's such a strong rider. This course was perfectly made for Ellen van Dijk.
Well, everyone's been saying that Ellen van Dijk is the race favourite. You can be the race favourite. What you've then got to do is deal with the pressure and the stress that that brings. And right now she's doing the right thing, but here we go. Linda Willemsen is looking quick. She's really kicking on as she heads towards this intermediate time split. She's the first rider under 16 minutes, and Willemsen in the all-black colours of New Zealand is setting a sizzling pace out on this course.
Well, she's known to be one of those riders that's very consistent and always on the podium, but she's not managed to win a world championship yet. There's always somebody faster. Without the likes of Judith Arndt this year, she thought her prospects and chances could be better, and then Ellen van Dijk just comes out of nowhere and becomes the race favourite. So there's always somebody faster, and I think it's going to be very frustrating if she finishes second or third again at this World Championship.
Well, I remember talking to her earlier on in the season. As let's just look back here at the next rider to finish. This is Lisa Brennauer of her teammate Trixie Warwick is the fastest rider at the finish line with 28:19.84, but Brennauer is going to be somewhere around about 28:52. She's fifth fastest. But I remember talking to Linda Willemsen when I met her earlier on in the season for the first time, and she just says, you know, every time I get to a point and I finish fourth, or I finish back on Van Dijk, because she's fast through the corners, and she certainly looks like she's going fast.
She looks comfortable, she does, yep. Ellen van Dijk's also known for her technical skills and going through the corners quite fast, so she's got quite a handy lead on Willemsen at the moment, so I think that the race is definitely looking like it's going in the favour of Van Dijk. Yeah,
the Dutch rider now heading towards this time split, and she is certainly motoring 20 seconds faster than Linda Willemsen in second place. 15 minutes 39.25 for the Dutch rider, an average speed, the only rider over 47 kilometers an hour. Here we go at the finish line. This is Carmen Small, who has been one of the fastest riders out on the course so far today. Carmen Small now setting a fast pace. Is she going to be the fastest rider at the finish line? It's going to be very, very close, but she's almost there now. Trixie Warwick, 28:19.84. Small beats her, and it is by 2.92 seconds. Carmen Small goes into the hot seat as the leader of this World Championship individual time trial, and that is a very, very good performance from the American rider. Great performance from her.
I think no matter where she finishes now, she's going to be quite content with that ride and also with the season. She's a lovely, lovely person, and this is the first year that she's raced full-time in Europe with a European professional team or with Specialized Lululemon, and she says actually if she wasn't a cyclist she'd be in a circus because she loves traveling, she loves packing and unpacking that bag, so that's worked well for her this year.
Does she really?
Yeah.
Well, we're all used to going home, throwing some clothes out, putting some more back in and getting back to another hotel, aren't we? That's the circuit. Here we are with Ellen van Dijk heading through now the more technical section. It'll be interesting to see at the 16.4 kilometre point, is she going to be the fastest rider? Willemsen is getting close to the time of Carmen Small now out on this course. So this is Evie Stevens. She's second fastest now at 16.4 kilometres. The fastest rider is Carmen Small, 21:23.25. Evie Stevens, 21:25.02. As Willemsen goes round that left-hander and went right to the limit through there. She knows she needs to find something. The question is, can she find anything to come back at Van Dijk before the finish? It's going to take an awful lot of effort to go anywhere close to Van Dijk. Well, she really is kicking on now. She's got every single hope, and I must admit, Rochelle, when this rider said she'd retired, I for one was pretty disappointed, because I love watching her race. She's such a competitor and she's always there. She deserves the medals because she works so hard.
She works extremely hard. She's a person that finds it very hard to sit still. She's the first one up in the morning. Every morning by like 6 o'clock she's on the rollers before she has breakfast, so she's extremely dedicated, and it would be nice to see her win a World Championship before she retires.
So we've seen Zabelinskaya finish that time trial now, and she is outside the top 3. So a little bit of a disappointing ride for Zabelinskaya today. Some were mentioning that she could be in the top 3, but so far at the finish line, it's Carmen Small, Trixie Warwick and Annika Langvad who has announced her arrival at the top of world cycling with this performance, and there's going to be a few managers looking at her name.
Absolutely, it'll be interesting if she's even interested in stepping away from mountain biking into road cycling, but she has proved that you can do both. Absolutely.
Well, it just shows you can go from that background. You mentioned Cadel Evans previously. We've seen other riders do it in the men's circuit. Riders like Jean-Christophe Perrault of AG2R and other previous mountain bikers who've done so well. Right, we're here with Linda Willemsen, who is accelerating nicely. She's still keeping that cadence really, really high. She doesn't look like she is suffering at all. Compared to, she looks like she's on a good ride. She's 4 seconds ahead of Small and Stevens, who are now on the reference point, absolutely equal on time. Van Dijk is still 26 seconds faster on the GPS, and I'm wondering whether she is going quicker. She is going quicker. She's opening up a little bit of an advantage on the rest of the riders. She is in a big gear. She's having to push herself back in the saddle. She has an unusual style, doesn't she? The knees are slightly out compared to everybody else.
Yeah, she's a very versatile rider this year in comparison to the previous years. This year she's getting up hills, and she's going over races like Flèche Wallonne up the wall in the top 3, so she's certainly lifted her level and an all-round cyclist this year.
Emma Johansson then racing towards the finish line, the Swedish rider, the #1 ranked rider in the world, as she crosses the line, 7th fastest, 28:41.16 for Emma Johansson. We could be seeing her in the top 10 in a World Championship time trial for the first time. Right, this is the 16.4 kilometre point, and Ellen Van Dijk is setting a blistering pace. This is a gold medal ride if she doesn't make any mistakes. 20 minutes 54.57. She's the first rider under 21 minutes. Her average speed is 47 kilometers an hour, and this is very, very impressive, not just at women's world level but at men's world level. This is fast.
It certainly is very fast. She's a level above everybody else in these World Championships. Like we said, she did come in as the favourite, but to be able to put on this performance on the day with all that pressure. She's already won a World Championship 2 days ago and pulled on that jersey, so she would have given her maximum, and she's recovered well, and she's coming out here showing that she is actually a level above everyone else.
Talking about riders who are riding these time trials well, and you said earlier they ride more on their time trial bikes, so these riders will have their time trial bikes at home and they'll train on them as though they train on their road bikes.
Yeah, these riders who are specifically targeting the World Championships in the time trial will have these bikes at home, and we'll train on them a couple of times a week to make sure that they stay used to this position.
So Ellen van Dijk then heading slightly downhill now. There's not many downhills on this road and not many even slight rises, but she's using that to accelerate a little bit. The big question now is the silver and bronze medals. Who are they going to go to? Are they going to go to Willemsen, Stevens or Small? They're really the three riders in the game for the silver and bronze medals. It's going to be very, very close. The reference point is Carmen Small. Evie Stevens slightly ahead of her. Linda Willemsen again looking like the silver medal position at the moment. The bronze is between the two Americans, and it just constantly changes between Small and Stevens. Evie Stevens now goes through that left-hander, and she can now start to see the tick down of the last few kilometres. Van Dijk is in a whole different league to everyone else today. She's got her form absolutely perfect. So the arrival now of Shara Gillow, the Australian rider, heading up towards the finish line. She's going to complete the course in 29 minutes 8.57. She's just inside the top 10, just dropping Longo Borghini down to 10th place. A consistent performance from Shara Gillow, but won't get a medal today.
I think Shara Gillow would have been expecting a lot more. I know Australia have really had high hopes of Shara lifting to the level of being on the podium at the World Championships, and she is somebody who targets the individual time trial, and that's her specialty. And she has had a better performance at the World Championships than she's had today, so I think she'll be quite disappointed with that ride.
So now we're looking at the silver and bronze medals. This is Linda Willemsen of New Zealand. She previously rode for Denmark. She's finished on the podium on a number of occasions. She wants another medal. She wanted gold, but Van Dijk is just absolutely blitzing this course today. Willemsen goes through that right-hander, takes that corner, maybe could have taken it a teeny bit sharper, but she doesn't want to make any mistakes. She is going quicker. Here is Evelyn Stevens now. Is she going to be a medalist today? 28 minutes 16.92 is a time to beat. She knows she has to sprint all the way to the finish line. Evelyn Stevens is going to be, she is second to Carmen Small. 28 16.96. Rochelle, 0.04 of a second outside Carmen Small.
How can it be that close after 22 kilometres? It's unbelievable, isn't it? Imagine what will go through their minds when they go to bed tonight, where they got that.
You have to, it's like at the weekend in the men's team time trial, 0.81 of a second. And Brett Lancaster, I spoke to him at the finish and you couldn't really speak to him. He just didn't know what to say. Look at the face on Carmen Small.
Well, they come from the same team and they've won a World Championship together this week, so she would have been happy either way, I think, but obviously knowing that she's just finished that one position ahead, but by that close.
Linda Willemsen now, she took that corner absolutely perfect. Her shoulder was almost on the barriers. She goes to the left-hand side of the road. She's trying to find any little bit of speed she can. So right now at the finish line, 43 riders have finished. Carmen Small is the leader, 28 minutes 16.92. An incredible second place, 28 16.96, as Linda Willemsen sets herself up for the finish line. She's out the saddle, she sprints, she gets back onto the skis yet again. She's going now to try and put herself into silver medal position. Here goes Linda Willemsen of New Zealand as she accelerates and goes to the left-hand side of the road. The right-hand side, as we look at it, this is a really good time. What a performance from Linda Willemsen. She's gritting her teeth now, heading towards the finish line. She's inside the last 200 metres, 27.58. She's going to be just outside 28 minutes. Now she's got to beat the time of Carmen Small. She kicks it on a little bit more. Linda Willemsen hits the finish line any minute now. 28 minutes, 12.28. Well, it's definitely the silver medal. And the question is whether Van Dijk is going to blow everyone else out of the water with her performance. She so far is the quickest, but Linda Willemsen still fast. And the time for Willemsen, 28:12.28, and a blistering 46.375 kilometres an hour.
That's an amazing consistency from Linda. She's always on the podium at the World Championships, but like we said earlier, there seems to always be somebody better. But she couldn't have done better today. She gave it her 100%, and as all did her sponsors. She had the new bike from Colnago and Campagnolo with the electronic, and as you can see, she's given it everything, and that was her best ride, and she's securely got the silver medal, so it's not bad.
What's she going to say tonight, though? She's going to be Again, she's a rider who's always there, and you can't take away so many silver and bronze medals, can you? She's a great athlete. Right, let's now see Ellen van Dijk, who is out of the saddle in a massive gear into the finishing straight. She is powering away towards the finish line. Ellen van Dijk, the Dutch rider who has set the fastest times out on the course compared to everybody else. She is sitting there pushing the biggest gear on her bike. This is going to be the gold medal ride. This is going to be the world champion. She is going to be, by the looks of things, the only rider inside 28 minutes. Ellen van Dijk racing to the finish line now in the orange of the Netherlands. The Dutch are going to go absolutely wild. There'll be a party in Florence tonight. 27 minutes 48.18, and she smashes the time of everyone else by 24.1 seconds, and her average speed is 47 kilometers an hour.
Well, it's always great to see the favourite win and have a good day. She deserves that win today. She was absolutely the best bike rider coming into the World Championships, and to pull that off and be the race favourite and get that second World Championship in a few days. Can see how emotionally happy she is.
Well, she's sitting down to try and recover, but what a great performance from Ellen van Dijk. It's one thing being the favourite, it's another thing translating it to a World Championship win. We've seen her before as a rider that we've mentioned as a possible medalist, and she's never even done that. So today she goes onto the top step of the podium. The Dutch are going to go mad in front of our commentary box any moment now. Her fan club are going to open the champagne. There's going to be a big, big party for the Dutch riders and fans. Ellen van Dijk is the world champion, an emotional, calm and Small, who is a bronze medalist, and she's in tears, and she really deserves a bronze medal.
That would be like a win for her today. Like we said a couple of years ago, you wouldn't have predicted she'd be on the podium, but for her to finish third today would definitely feel like a win, and super impressive from Carmen Small.
Linda Willemsen then, second place, 28 minutes 12.28. Carmen Small in third place, 28.16.92. As she tries to get up, those legs must be absolutely aching, but it doesn't matter. The adrenaline, the emotion, and everything else is what matters. She is the world champion, and it's the first title for the Dutch in this week of racing. Is Marianne Vos going to also try and bring home the title for the Netherlands? They're going to, well, they were going to do an interview, but they have to go what we call the mix zone for that, which comes after the podium. Because we want to see her with a rainbow jersey on, and we want to see the silver and bronze medals going to New Zealand and to the United States of America, to Carmen Small in bronze and Willemsen in the silver medal. Oh, another great competition. Rochelle, summarise it for us. What's it been like?
That was so exciting. The last few riders that went off then, and they were so close in times, apart from Ellen van Dijk, who was in a class of her own. That was really impressive for her to pull off the win today with that much pressure on her. The whole season, everybody's been talking about her in the World Championship, so she put it all together today, and she was in a class of her own. But behind that, the race was on for the second and third place.
There's the magnificent Ponte Vecchio as the tourists wander around, but here is the result. Ellen van Dijk is the world time trial champion, the only rider under 28 minutes. Linda Willemsen, a silver medal again for New Zealand, and Carmen Small beats her teammate Evelyn Stevens to take third place and the bronze medal by the most slender of margins. The German Trixie Warwick also in the top 5, and the emergence of Annika Langvad in 6th place. What a performance from the Danish rider, former mountain biker turned time trialist, and there's going to be a few team managers who are going to be talking to her about whether her attention's now turned to the road, because that is a stunning performance. The Australian Shara Gillow in 12th place today, 1 minute and 20 seconds down, and Ellen van Dijk has beaten some massive names. So the rest of the riders will tick through here as we build up to the podium. The strength of women's cycling, Rochelle, gets better every year.
Absolutely. I was just thinking about the road race on Saturday for the women, with the Dutch and the Italians and the Australians, the Canadians. There's so many strong countries in there, but the Dutch certainly have proved that they're going to be a team in force on Saturday.
There's no doubt about that. So give us a prediction. Saturday, what's going to happen?
Well, one of my riders, Giorgia Bronzini, is also one of the outside favourites, but she has such a strong team with the Italians, and on home ground, any one of those riders in the Italian team could win. But obviously the clear favourite is Marianne Vos, another Dutch rider.
Marianne Vos, without a doubt, could defend her World Championship title, but everyone looks at her, don't they, as the rider to beat, and therefore the other teams could maybe try and play off her a little bit and try and take the victory.
It'll be interesting tactics. It's a very tough circuit. They say it's one of the hardest World Championships. So, but Marianne Vos is definitely the one that everybody will be watching, and when she's on form and when she's having a good day, it doesn't matter what any of the other teams do, she can still win. She's just that strong and a phenomenal bike rider, and she's definitely the favourite for Saturday, so it'll be interesting to watch.
So we're waiting for the podium now. The presentation will take place in a few moments' time. It's been great to have Rochelle Gilmore alongside me in the commentary box, who can just give us that little edge, that little bit more about women's cycling and what's going on. So tell me, this year it's been a bit different for you.
Absolutely. I've made the transition from a bike rider myself into manager, and I've been so busy, it's been unbelievable. I knew it would be a really demanding job, but I've enjoyed it being a team manager, and we've had an enormous amount of success this year with our riders. Linda Willemsen's won a few races, and Giorgia Bronzini's obviously been on the form of her life and won plenty of races this year. She'd like to win one more before the season's over.
Yeah.
But yeah, for me it's been a really immense feeling to be the manager of a team and still have those highs and lows that an athlete has. When you win or lose, you have those ups and downs, but it's been a fabulous season.
Won a lot of national
Here's Ellen van
titles.
Dijk then.
The world title. You must be feeling pretty good.
I don't know. I have no words to describe how I feel. I'm so happy. Really, I'm super happy.
And the course today was very flat with a little bit of wind. It's very good for the Netherlands riders.
Exactly, for the tall riders that need to have the advantage of the higher power, and yeah, this course suited me really well, so I knew I had a good chance here, and I knew I had to take it, and I did it.
You retained your team title with Specialized Lululemon the other day, and now you're the individual champion. It's a pretty strong team against the clock.
It's crazy. I mean, Carmen is third. He's also on the podium. I just heard Effie is fourth. I mean, it's crazy. It's our team has such a strong time trial list, and it's because we put a lot of effort in it. We have the best material. We have everything, all the support from the team, and it's just amazing.
In today's race, you took quite a big early lead, like 20 seconds at the first checkpoint, but then maybe a little slower. Had you gone too fast, do you think?
Yeah, I think I was a little bit too excited in the beginning. I was like, oh, I hope I can keep this. I was a bit afraid. But yeah, I knew my cornering was pretty okay, but still, yeah, I suffered really, really hard. And I think it was not so beautiful to look at my riding style anymore at the end, but it doesn't matter.
Yeah, I think you lost maybe 1 second in the final thing, but you weren't really worried about losing the whole race.
Well, 20 seconds is quite a big lead for. Yeah, there was 11k remaining, so I mean it always can happen, and you can crash or you can puncture, and anything can happen. But I knew that I didn't have to take all the risks of the world in the corner.
And now I guess you have a lot of morale for defending the Netherlands title in the road race on Saturday.
Yeah, free rainbow should be even better. Yeah.
Ellen van Dijk, then the world champion, reflecting on her victory today over 22 kilometres here in Florence. This rider is going to be, I think, a little bit emotional on the podium in a few moments' time. Carmen Small, the bronze medalist in the World Championships.
There'll be a lot of very excited and happy riders about Carmen's bronze medal today, because she's loved by everybody in the women's peloton, and she's just a fantastic person to have around, and to see her on the podium is not only satisfying for her, but for everybody that's worked with her this year, and all of the riders in the peloton have an enormous amount of respect for her, so it will be an emotional podium.
Linda Willemsen there in second place. So when you look at it, you look at the teams that these riders ride for, and you know, Ellen van Dijk, Carmen Small, Evie Stevens used to racing together all the time. One of the Wiggle Honda riders in second place. It's interesting to see the different teams and how they've helped these riders get to World Championship level.
Absolutely. I can speak for Linda Willemsen. Her teammates were all here today and went out and watched her training during the week, and they give so much support And with the Specialized Lululemon team, that you can see there that they've got 1, 2, 3, 4 riders up there in the top 5. So they're an unbelievable time trial team.
Certainly are. Yeah, that's pretty impressive. 4 in the top places. And we look at the rest of the riders who are there or thereabouts. Just thinking about Annika Langvad, turning her attention from mountain biking to road and time trials. You know how difficult that could be. That's impressive.
It's really impressive. There's always a lot of talk about how difficult it is even to juggle track and road cycling. Mountain bike and road cycling, Marianne Vos has tried to do that this year. She's not had the best results. I mean, she's still been phenomenal on the road, but we can see that the mountain bike work that she's done has paid a little bit on the road side of things. So it is a difficult thing to juggle, but she's proved that you can definitely do both.
So we're waiting for the podium presentation, which each day in Florence takes a little bit of time, but we are seeing some sights and sounds now of this magnificent place, which is going to host tomorrow the men's elite time trial, the showdown between Tony Martin, Fabian Cancellara and Bradley Wiggins, as well as many other riders. That's going to be some race, I'm sure. It's going to be a long time trial tomorrow for the men. If it's this warm, well, you've really got to be fully hydrated, right on your game to win that individual time trial. We'll find out whether Tony Martin had to tow his Omega Pharma Quick Step along as much as we think he did to win the title at the weekend, or whether he's just recovering and it'll be absolutely fine. Fabian Cancellara, without any shadow of a doubt, is right on song, and Brad Wiggins has just won the Tour of Britain, so he thinks he's ready for it. And when was the last time we saw those 3 riders go head-to-head?
It's certainly going to be exciting to watch them tomorrow, to go head-to-head, and everybody being in top form and believing in themselves, and it's going to be a close race.
It certainly is. It's going to be very, very fast indeed. As we wait now for Carmen Small, Linda Willemsen and Ellen van Dijk to make their way onto the podium. They'll be presented with the medals, and Ellen van Dijk will be presented with the rainbow jersey as the world champion. Women's cycling, in terms of being able to wear that world championship jersey during the year, still plenty of opportunities to do so.
Yeah, absolutely. There is quite a few individual time trials on the UCI calendar, so those riders can target those events during the year, and it allows them to run through the paces of riding a individual time trial that's not during a tour.
I think the place to be is the Dutch Hotel. What do you think?
Yeah, I think there'll be a big celebration there this evening.
Here we go then. This is the podium presentation of the women's individual time trial as the riders make their way to be presented with the medals. A fan club awaiting as she goes and just gives them a hug anyway. Making her way onto the steps. The prizes and medals and jerseys are going to be presented by Brian Cookson, who is of course aiming to be elected president of the UCI. Pat McQuaid was here yesterday to present the awards. Here we are then, this is the presentation.
In third place, winning the bronze medal, Carmen Small of the United States of America.
The bronze medalist then from the United States of America, Carmen Small.
In second place, Linda Willemsen of New Zealand.
Linda Willemsen takes her second silver medal in a World Championship time trial to go with the 3 bronzes she also has. The most consistent women's time trialist in this field today.
In first place, winner of the event, winner of the gold medal, winner of the rainbow jersey, and new world champion, Ellen van Dijk of the Netherlands.
The gold medal goes to Ellen van Dijk. She's the world champion of the individual time trial. She will pull on the gold medal and the rainbow bands as the world champion.
La medaglia d'oro e la maglia iridate vengono consegnate da Mr. Brian Cookson.
Big smile from Ellen van Dijk, the world champion of the individual time trial. And the flowers now will be presented. The fan club of Ellen van Dijk ready for the national anthem of the Netherlands any moment now. A very reflective face on Linda Willemsen. Just keep trying is the message, I think. One day the gold medal will come. Ellen van Dijk is the world champion, and we wait now for the national anthem of the Netherlands.
For the national anthem of the Netherlands.
Ed ora, signore e signori, l'inno nazionale olandese.
There's the medalists in the individual time trial. Carmen Small, Linda Willemsen and Ellen van Dijk take the medals. So the fanfare sounds. It's been a great tussle between all the riders today. And they can now go and reflect on what has been a great championship for women so far. We've got the road race at the weekend. We'll find out whether one of these riders figures in that road race as well, or whether the title goes elsewhere. Carmen Small, Linda Willemsen and Ellen van Dijk, the medalists of today. Rochelle, a great time trial. We're going to leave everyone with the highlights of the riders, but a great performance from Ellen van Dijk today.
Absolutely, an amazing performance to be the favourite and to pull off the win. Very satisfying to see the favourite win today.
Well, thanks very much for joining us today. It's been a great pleasure to have alongside me Rochelle Gilmore here to talk us through the ins and outs of women's cycling and to analyse some of the performances, giving us those little insights you don't get otherwise. We're going to leave you with the highlights of today's racing as we watch Carmen Small, Linda Willemsen and Ellen van Dijk cross the line. Thank you very much for joining me again today from Rochelle Gilmore and myself, Anthony McCrossan. Thanks very much for watching, and we'll speak to you again soon. Bye for now.
She is coming at it. She will be the fastest time of day. She's trying to get in. You got to help her out. Come on, Vanessa. Let's help out Middleton. Fastest time of day to the line.
Il tempo miglior tempo per Linda Middleton, che è solo un atleta all'arrivo, porterà i colori.
You ain't running, you're in the wrong cloud. Go through 60, you're on the wrong beach. Tell the bottom, we don't want no glass, just bottles on the right, everybody one each. Yeah, so bring the verb, please.
Parte Ellen Van Dijk. Si è così esaurita